810 WHB with the best coverage of the NCAA tournament, and Westwood One does an absolutely fantastic job of that. And we'll get a chance to talk to a number of people that are involved in the broadcast that you will hear tomorrow. Jason Horowitz, that you hear in the Westwood One studios, that takes you around with the different games that are going on. PJ Carlissimo, we'll talk with him as an analyst. Robbie Hummel, an analyst, we'll talk with him. And the voice of Westwood One, Kevin Kugler, Cougs, we'll talk with him coming up today as well. And tomorrow at noon is when the coverage starts with a Best of Radio Row starting at noon, and then the Westwood One Final Four show starting at 2 o'clock. Game 1, 5:09 tip-off, Auburn and Florida. Game 2, 20 minutes after that ends, 25 minutes with Duke and Houston, and I really do think we're in store for 3 dynamite games. And I know that the last time we had 4 number 1 seeds, it was down here in San Antonio. Oddly enough, I was thinking about this. We'll talk with Kevin Kugler coming up at 1 o'clock, and oddly enough, that his first Final Four, because it was that Kansas championship game, that was his first ever Final Four and national championship game that he did for Westwood One. That was in San Antonio, and that was 4 number 1 seeds. So that is interesting. We talked with Ryan Odom yesterday, head coach of Virginia, and he said, how it's coming full circle. Growing up a kid whose dad was head coach of Virginia back in those great Virginia days, or assistant coach, and him being around the program as a kid from, he said, age third grade to like 9th or 10th grade, like his earliest childhood memories being around that program, and now it coming full circle from UMBC as the head coach beating Virginia and now being at Virginia. And I'm guessing it's probably one of those feels for Kevin Kugler as well. But I do think we're in store for 3 really good games with these 4 teams, because Auburn and Florida just know each other. You don't blow out Houston, and I don't think Houston scores enough to run away from Duke. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. Our coverage presented by Easton Roofing and National VA Loans. Here's how the show lines up if you want to take notes. If you're scoring at home, as they say, here's how the show lines up. It is 10:20. About 12 minutes from now, we're scheduled to talk with Tamar Bates. Missouri basketball, Tamar Bates, playing in the NABC All-Star Game coming up later on today. Told that Caleb Grill will not make it today to Radio Row. He was in the three-point contest last night. We got a chance to talk to him last night. You can check that out on the social media. Tamira Poindexter from Kansas State talked with her as well. They were both competing in the three-point contest. Tamira made the semifinals. Caleb Grill lost in the championship to my guy, not my guy, but Tyler McGuy from UC San Diego, lost in the championship round. I think he got screwed. Caleb Grill had to shoot, his first 2 rounds were on one side of the floor, and then the championship they made him move to the other side of the floor where Tyler McGuy was shooting the whole time. But yet Caleb Grill had the high score in the semifinals. He should have chosen. Should have been his choice of what side. They screwed over. You know what? It's just so Missouri. It's so Missouri. Can they just catch a break, please? But at least Caleb Grill did make the Final Four and the championship round at a Final Four. So, you've got that going for him, which is nice. And he wore those beautiful block letter jerseys for Mizzou. But Poindexter looked like she was having a blast. She made the semifinals. She had a rough couple of racks there and did not make the finals. And it was a dynamite finals is what it was. So it was a good time watching the three-point contest, the slam dunk contest last night, but told Caleb Grill will not make it today, which is perfectly fine. We are expected that Tamar Bates will be here as he gets ready for the NABC All-Star Game East-West. Caleb Grill playing in that game as well. We'll talk with James Jones, head coach of Yale, coming up at 10:40, 10:45. He's one of our favorite interviews that we talk to, and I know that you're thinking, Yale, but Yale knocked off Auburn last year in the first round. They lost to A&M this year. They are the Cinderella team. Is Cinderella going away? And a team that, has dominated the regular season in the Ivy League, but has had to win the conference tournament in the Ivy League. And he's a guy, when he first got to Yale 20 years ago, 25 years ago, something like that, lobbied for the Ivy League to change their automatic bid from the regular season champ to the conference tournament champ, because it gave Yale a better chance of making the tournament because they weren't winning the regular season. Now they are. And now they have to go and win the conference tournament as well. And they survived Princeton in the semifinals, and Princeton, they won by 2, and Princeton had 2 different three-point attempts in the last 30 seconds to beat Yale, and missed them both. And so they could have been knocked out there. But is Cinderella gone? What does he think about that? So we'll talk with him coming up at 10:40. Matt Derrick, we'll talk some Chiefs football with Matt Derrick at 11 o'clock. There is news with Nazeeh Johnson. I almost said Jalen Johnson, but with Nazeeh Johnson, news in his salary cap number, so it makes that signing even better. I know that people were frustrated with the signing at one point with what the cap number was. That salary cap number is not 3.3 anymore. It is now listed at $1.2 million for a salary cap, and the thought process and reasoning behind it is certainly interesting, but that does lower the cap by $2 million for Nazeeh Johnson, him adjusting his contract. So we'll talk with Matt Derrick about that. The Chiefs on Christmas Day becoming the Christmas Cowboys, and the Hunt family and what the impact is from that. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. At 11:50, Jason Horowitz, who is in the studio bouncing around from game to game. We'll talk with Andy Katz from Westwood One coming up at noon, covers college basketball forever. And then at 12:20, we're scheduled to talk with Missouri head coach Dennis Gates. And he's going to be down here at Radio Row. And so we'll talk with Dennis Gates coming up at 12:20. PJ Carlesimo coming up at 12:40. Kevin Kugler at 1 o'clock. We'll talk with Bruce Bowen coming up at 1:15. Robbie Hummel. All of those interviews coming throughout the show that we are scheduled to talk with. And let's hope that those things end up like what's best laid plans, as they say, right? Best laid plans, and we'll see what happens with that. But I do want to start off real quick on some college basketball stuff, and certainly we can get into some baseball throughout the show, but I don't know unless one of these interviews falls through. But we'll have a packed show on a Friday, as you would expect here at the Final Four. But I thought it was interesting. I've watched so many slam dunk competitions on TV, and I don't know how many people watched the three-point shootout of the slam dunk contest last night. I have no idea. Quite frankly, if I was watching on TV, I don't know how entertaining the slam dunk contest would have been. We've talked about slam dunk contests before. I enjoy the three-point shootout more than the slam dunk competition. That has changed over the years, but really, like last 15, 20 years, I'd rather watch the three-point shootout, mainly because I can make a lot of threes. I don't dunk. But to watch somebody just get like crazy hot and go like 3 racks in a row, which is what Tyler McGuy did in the championship when the championship on the men's side took on the lady from Grand Canyon on the women's side, and I think Tyler McGee made his last 15 shots, the top of the key rack, the wing, and then the baseline just went crazy and got 18 points there in the final 3 racks to knock off and be the champion of champion. Like watching those things, that's cool. But I will say, and maybe it's being in the moment, the dunks when you're right under the baseline, which is where Bethany and I were set up, and she was getting video and stuff because we were videoing Poindexter and Grill and things like that. But the dunks that were happening when you're right under the basket, it's like, oh my God, like I can't believe that. Oh, like you're reacting, and oftentimes when I'm watching a dunk competition, you hear the reaction from the fans, and you're like, that was a fine dunk. Like the fans went crazy. I'm not really sure what the what the excitement was over that, and that being my first time there, that was my reaction. Like I'm like, oh wow, like Bethany and I are looking at each other like, good night, and then we watch it on the big screen and seeing what people are seeing on TV, and I'm like, that was all right. It's like such a different view and perspective, and so I became one of those people that I'm like, why are you like going crazy for that dunk? But it was it's different when you're right underneath the basket, I guess. So I thought that was interesting last night. We'll talk with Tamar Bates coming up here in just a little bit. But a couple of quick thoughts on the Final Four, in that I think it is so important for all 4 coaches as it would be to win a championship. Like we have 4 coaches that no matter who cuts down the nets on Monday will be cutting down the nets and winning their first championship. Kelvin Sampson, probably his last chance to win a championship. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but I would guess probably his last chance. John Shire, I think, will have lots of chances, but will he have a chance this good with this group of players that are as talented as this team is? Maybe, but it's like, well, yeah, you're going to get the number one. You can get the top 5, 6, 7 players that you want to at Duke. Yeah, but the number one pick in the draft sometimes is Olowokandi and sometimes it's LeBron James. Not every number one recruit in the country is created equal. So Cooper Flagg compared to, other players throughout the years. So this opportunity, Bruce Pearl in the Final Four yet again, lost in the national semifinals to Texas Tech, or did they lose to I think they lost to Virginia in the national semifinals, and Tony Bennett. And so an opportunity to play for a national championship. And, of course, Todd Golden in Florida, just his third year at Florida. Is he going to have, teams like this moving forward? Certainly he's got the cachet behind him, but you also have the investigation that's going on that is not behind him right now. The Title IX part of it is behind him of what took place. Like I would have bet in November, I would have bet that Todd Golden had a much better chance of being fired on April 5th than playing in a national semifinal on April 5th. And yet here we are. So it's just an interesting sort of storyline with all four coaches. I think 3 of the 4 coaches will have other opportunities, and I wouldn't be upset other than my financial impact if Kelvin Sampson cut down the nets, because he's been such a dynamite coach for so long. And I could have validation that my calling for the Missouri Tigers to hire Kelvin Sampson when his show cause expired, to move on from Frank Haith after 3 years, knowing that it was not going to get better. It had gotten worse. A 2 seed to a 9 seed to the NIT. Like, it had just continually gotten worse. What would possibly tell you that it was going to get better? And the show cause was coming up, and he was available. You think he would take Houston or Mizzou, considering that Houston had nothing? It was a program that didn't have fans, didn't have money behind it, didn't have history except for back with Phi Slamma Jamma. Like, they had been to one tournament before Kelvin Sampson got there, between Phi Slamma Jamma and Kelvin Sampson. And he takes over, and now they've gone to 2 Final Fours and a chance to win a national championship. Like, sometimes you got to recognize the great coaches that are out there and what you want to be. And Missouri's only plan and strategy moving forward for any coach they hire is, can this coach get Mizzou to the Final Four? That is it. Can this coach put him in a better spot moving forward in 4 or 5 years if he moves on? No. Can this coach get you to the Final Four? Hiring Kelvin Sampson, yeah, that coach can get you to the Final Four. Staying with Frank Haith for another year, not going to get you to the Final Four. That should be the only thing that was on Mike Alden's mind at that time. Wasn't the case. Kelvin Sampson's here. I would not be upset, other than the fact that I need Florida to beat Duke on Monday night so I can win the office pool. And I need Florida to at least win on Saturday to knock out the Auburn players so that my Florida players can continue. You know what I'm saying here. It's about my selfish money, all right, and my selfish view of this tournament. It's all about me. That's what I'm saying. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. The NIBC boys are here. The guys that are going to be playing in the game coming up later on today. And the East-West. We're told, though, I'm glad that the Missouri players are playing for the East, because we're told that none of the West players are going to be here today. So luckily, Tamar Bates and Caleb Grill are on the East, because they're all coming down the escalator. See them right there. So we'll take a timeout, and we will talk with Tamar Bates coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Hanging out in San Antonio. It's the Final Four. Games coming up tomorrow right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And a game that is played tonight, the NABC All-Stars and Missouri Tiger. Tamar Bates will be playing in that game. Tamar, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us. Congrats on the NABC All-Star selection.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
What's been going on this week or the last couple of days in practice to get ready for tonight's game?
I mean, we haven't been doing really nothing too crazy. I mean, our coach, obviously, it's an all-star game, so he gave us some simple concepts and stuff to go over, and we've been able to have the opportunity to play in front of a lot of NBA scouts. So we've been in practice, competing a lot, and, just really getting after it. Obviously, most of the guys that was playing when our season was over, we wasn't really doing too much of nothing. We was resting. So it was good to, get back into, playing and running up and down the court, getting back into shape, and obviously getting ready for this summer. So we've been having fun, getting to know each other, and just getting ready for the game.
What's life going to be like for you after this weekend's over, getting ready for, as you say, the summer and what's ahead of you in your career?
I mean, I'm just going to be getting ready for the draft. I mean, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to be flying right to Miami and just getting ready to start working out and just, like I said, get ready for the draft. And I got Portsmouth coming up on the 16th to the 19th, so just getting prepared just to, play in front of all these teams and get ready for these workouts with whatever teams invite me out and, just getting ready to, see what's next.
As you look back, Tamar Bates is our guest. As you look back over this season, can you find perspective separate from how it ended for this Tigers team and what you guys were able to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it took me a little minute to, even mentally understand that I wasn't in Wichita, Kansas no more, because even when we left, mentally I was still there because, in our heads and our hearts, we were going to be leaving there, getting ready to go to San Francisco. So, I mean, it was tough just to deal with the way the season ended, but I give all the credit to Drake. I mean, they played better than us that day. They were just a better team. I mean, they played harder, so they definitely deserved to win that ball game. But it took me probably about a week and a half, a little bit of change, just to really sit back and reflect on the season that we had. Obviously, being with my teammates after we got back to school helped with that a lot. And I mean, we definitely we had a great season, and obviously, whether it be the fan base or anybody that writes in these blogs or whatever, they might have a different opinion in terms of how our season ended. But I mean, as I said in my press conference after the game, I mean, I'm nothing but proud of our team, and obviously what we were able to accomplish. And I mean, for me, coming into the season, my goal was to have the best turnaround in college basketball history, and we did some things that attested to that. So definitely a great season, and it was just great to get Mizzou back, that national recognition before I left.
How important is that? Tamar Bates is our guest. How important was that to when you were deciding to transfer from Indiana, to be somewhere closer, to come back home, whether that be Mizzou or another place locally? How important was that to you to look around here, to be back near Kansas City, near your home?
I mean, it was definitely huge for me. Obviously, I wanted to be a lot closer to my daughter, so that was the biggest thing for me. But then the basketball piece lined up, I mean, perfectly at the University of Missouri and with Coach Gates and his staff. So, I mean, the fact that I was around a great coaching staff, obviously a great leader in Coach Gates, and then being able to be closer to the city, see a lot more of my family, see a lot more friends, be able to come to games, and obviously, like I said, share this college experience I've had with my daughter and just be more hands-on with her. It was definitely a great opportunity, and I was glad I was able to take advantage of it.
When you were coming out of high school and IMG and Piper and all of that stuff, was locally around here, was it, were there possibilities of you going to a place, or in your mind was it sort of Indiana, Mike Woodson, that's where you wanted to be?
Well, out of high school, I originally committed to play for Shaka Smart at Texas. So
I think I remember that,
And I signed pretty early. I committed in August, and then I signed in the early signing date, whenever that is. I forget, but I was going to play for Texas, and I got recruited by K-State, Kansas, Missouri, and I mean it just kind of didn't shake out how I wanted to. Obviously, I would have loved to stay closer to home out of high school, but I just felt like Coach Smart was the best coach that recruited me, and that was the best opportunity for me. And then when he left, I mean, obviously, I went back into the recruitment stage and ended up going to play for Coach Wilson at Indiana. But I definitely wanted to be closer to home, and as soon as I went in the portal, it was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be somewhere that was a lot closer to Kansas City.
Visiting with Tamar Bates and Mark Mitchell, growing up with him in the Kansas City side, one of the things that I loved about, as a Mizzou guy, I didn't love the game in Wichita, the ending certainly, but what I loved the build-up was the Kansas City connection, the players on Drake that were from KC, you guys from KC, and just at least nationally people getting a better idea of the talent that can come from this area.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, one of the radio stations asked me about that before the game in the pregame media, and I was just like, I feel like it's a testament to, obviously the talent that we've been able to produce out of Kansas City, and that we should be like a lot more recognized in terms of like as a basketball state. Like we have a lot of players, whether it's Division I or at any level, but to speak to players going Division I at a high school, we have somebody at almost every school in every conference. So, everybody talks about, hoopers from Cali and North Carolina and the DMV and New York and Texas. And obviously those places have had a long history. They've had a lot more people like over the course of time, over like 30, 40 years, having a lot of basketball players coming out of their city. But Kansas City, we've had, obviously a lot of pros, like even like dating back to the 90s and all that time. We had Errol Watson, we had the Rush brothers, we had
Peeler and
you know what I'm saying? So we've had a lot of pros come out of the city, and I feel like now, like when I was in high school and a few years after, we've had a wave of hoopers consistently, guys coming out of the city. So it's definitely good for KC and like for the younger kids coming up to see, people that are from the same place as them go play high-level basketball.
Tamar Bates is our guest. As you mentioned, what you wanted to accomplish was the best turnaround anybody has ever seen. When does the belief start? Before the season, but when does that start as a group in practice that that is possible, that the 0-18 is behind you, and this is a new season, and even as good as the SEC is, that you guys are going to be a team that not only good enough, but top 15, top 10 at times this year, and one of the better teams in America.
Yeah, the belief started in practice. It started in June when we all got to campus. Coach Gates obviously set the tone and just let everybody know that it was a no-nonsense like kind of year. Like we come here to work. We don't fool around off of the court, and we come in here. It's time to get down to business. And obviously we knew that a lot of people around the country weren't going to really look at us and respect who we were as a team. So for us, the whole season was just about taking respect. And we had a lot of really good leaders, myself, Caleb Grill, Jeremy Sanchez, guys who were named captains who set the tone and really instilled that belief in the group. We just came to practice every day to work, and I talked about it all season. I feel like we were able to have the success that we did just due to our preparation for every single game and just coming to practice with a winning mentality. And it started in the summer and it just carried over just because we had the right mentality.
Tamar Bates is our guest here as we're hanging out at Radio Row in the Final Four. How do you it came up during the season, and you've probably been asked about it, but how do you deal with some outside criticism that's there, and not really from the fan base, from other people outside the area? How does somebody like yourself, who is successful and was a pretty big reason why Missouri had the turnaround, and your leadership a big reason why, how do you deal with some of that stuff?
It really doesn't move me much. I experienced a lot of criticism in my first 2 years at Indiana, so I feel like moving forward, there wasn't really anything that could shake me simply because of the adversity that I went through. And I feel like people are entitled to their own opinion. So whatever somebody says about me, whether it's good or bad, I can't be mad at them. That's how they feel. It's how they feel. But I just control what I can control. I put the work in, I put the time in, and then I go out there and I see what the results are going to be. But criticism is not going nowhere. A lot of that's some people's jobs. It's to criticize basketball players, criticize athletes. So, like I said, they entitled to their own opinions. There's no love lost for me. It is what it is. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, we're visiting with Tamar Bates, and 95% from the free throw line. All right. when did you decide on the routine? Because I didn't play high-level basketball, but I loved shooting free throws. It's what I did. I'm not athletic, Tamar, okay? And I make up for it for not being able to jump. Plus, I'm not very strong. Free throw line, perfect spot for me. But when do you get the routine, and how many do you take a day? How many free throws are you shooting a day? Because 95% isn't an accident.
I want to say my free throw routine has been the same since I was probably in like 3rd or 4th grade.
Wow.
Like, I haven't changed it, and that's really a testament to my dad. Like, me and my brother, like, obviously grew up like playing together and like would work out with my dad, and that was one of the first things that he taught us was like, I need y'all to get a free throw routine that you are comfortable with, and then like don't change it. So, I mean, it's just that's what it is. I mean, I just been comfortable with my routine for a really long time, and it's just translated to every level. And then, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I probably shoot, or more so make. I probably make at least 50 a day, because I mean, if I'm working out, I'm shooting them between like every rep, so it could end up being like 100 if I shoot some more after, but I don't really miss too many when I'm working out. So like
it can be 52 or 53 you take.
So I just shoot them. I just keep shooting them until.
Do you have a record of
perfect?
Do you have a record of how many in a row that you've made?
I don't think I've like took track of it, but when I was at Indiana, we would like we would shoot 100 free throws after practice, and I made 98 in a row.
Pretty good.
So
that's pretty good. 98 in a row. If you're,
I think or maybe it might have been 96 in a row, but I made 98 total. I missed like one early, and then I locked in, but. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's tough to count once you get over 90.
Yeah.
You know, I know from experience, once you make 90 in a row, it's just who's keeping count anymore.
Yeah, and if I miss one in the game, I just feel like it's the basketball guys trying to keep me humble. Like, okay, you didn't already made 30-something in a row over the last 4 games. We got to make sure you keeping your stroke, clean.
Yeah,
so.
You missed 5 all season, so it didn't happen they didn't want to keep you very humble. Tamar Bates is our guest. Last one for you. Has Dennis Gates ever yelled?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
Even my teammates in the All-Star game like that played against us or played against him when he was at Cleveland State, like the first thing they talk about is how he's just on the sideline, extremely stoic, don't really say much, but he gets all that out in practice. Like in practice, that's when he on 10, if he has to be. Like he's not just coming to practice trying to, get on guys for no reason. Like if it's necessary, if we're not going hard, like he'll check the temperature of the room and do what he got to do. But I mean, I feel like his mentality is like when the game comes, like there's really not much more he can do. Like it's time for y'all to go play. Like obviously, like he makes his adjustments. Like in the huddle, he might get on us a little bit, but like when he's on the sideline coaching, like he's more so just he want us to be free and go hoop. So I mean, I like it. I mean, I feel like a lot of players that see the way that he coaches, they like the way that he coaches as well. But yeah, he definitely get his rocks off in practice.
Tamar Bates is our guest. Tamar, congratulations on a great career, helping get Mizzou back to where they are now, and best of luck tonight in the game and as you continue your career, man. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's Tamar Bates. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone coming up right after this. Yes, sir.
I'm great, Jay. Nice to be with you.
And I appreciate you being with us as well. Looking back on your season, how do you feel? I mean, it's yet another trip to the NCAA tournament for you guys. It's kind of old hat, I guess. Probably not how it feels, but very successful run at Yale these last few years.
Yeah, we've had a nice run. Actually, the last 10, we've been absolutely nothing but short of tremendous in our league, and being able to get out of it and have an opportunity to go to the tournament and win games, and that's been a lot of fun. And this year was no different. We won. We had the nation's longest winning streak. I think we had 13, 14 games at one point where we looked really good, and it was just fun to be around the guys. And we got back on campus. And they gave our guys a couple of weeks off, and I went in the locker room looking for guys because I miss being around my guys every day, either by watching them on film or talking to them in practice. So it was just nice to get back to being around them and start building for next year.
You guys were able to. You guys were one of the darlings or Cinderella picks this year to knock off A&M. It did not happen. What is it like to be a team like Yale that is viewed nationally as, hey, this is the Cinderella pick. People are believing in you. They're going to pick you to win these games, go to the Sweet 16, and you guys are there, and you still got to go out and actually perform, but people are talking about Yale and knocking off A&M and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes you feel good about what you've been able to build, and the reason why people feel that way is because of what we done last year, and when we beat Baylor in 2016, they feel you have an opportunity. And actually, I felt really good about our game against Texas A&M going into it. Thought that was a good matchup for us, and we actually just didn't play well. We had probably a B-minus performance of what I think we're capable of doing, and those things happen. You can't turn the ball over and miss free throws in an NCAA tournament as an underdog and expect to win.
Yeah, it's funny when an underdog team, a Cinderella, a lower-seeded team will lose, and it's a close game. The generic takeaway sometimes is, oh, man, they gave it their best shot. They almost had them. But It's not always the story of the game. Like, you can lose a close game. You guys didn't play well in that one. So it wasn't exactly like, it's like, hey, they played as well as they could play and almost beat A&M. No, I think if Yale played the top of their game that day, I think you guys win.
Yeah, I think you're right. We got a lot of respect from the point spread. It was like 7.5. So, it wasn't, a 20-point spread or anything like that. And, they're number 16 in the country or whatever they are, and we're not 16 in the country. So, early in the season when we played at Purdue, and I think we lost by 7 or 8 points, I felt like if we got a team like them on a neutral court in the NCAA tournament, we'd have a chance to win. And we did. And 2 years ago, we ended up beating Auburn. This year, we were not as lucky and not as fortunate.
Yeah, visiting with James Jones, head coach of Yale. What do you think of this Auburn team? You guys got them last year. They're a 1 seed this year, so a little bit different. But, Janai Broome had 24 in that game when you guys played them last year. You still found a way to come out on top. But this Auburn team is now in the Final Four. You guys got them last year. What do you see from them?
Yeah, they're really good. I think that Bruce does a really good job. He's got a lot of guys back from last year's team, which helps. A lot of older guys, and that's what you find out in this age of college basketball now. Now guys are staying a little bit longer, where maybe Janai Broome would have gone to try to test the waters last year, but what he's able to make financially at Auburn, there's no reason not to leave. So him coming back is a big part of that. They have a tremendous team. He does a great job at coaching them. They're really good on both sides of the ball. So it should be a fun watch in the NCAA tournament, but they have as good a chance as anybody at winning.
It's a theme that I've talked about this week when we see the Final Four being set is, and I mentioned this word a lot, and listeners may be getting tired of it, but I've talked about retention a lot when it comes to like NIL and transfer portal. People are so much paying attention to who can you bring in, and oftentimes it might be about who you retain and you don't lose. And 3 of these 4 teams that are playing in the tournament this weekend have 6, 7 of their top 8 guys that were on the team last year. Whether they transferred a couple 3 years ago, that's one thing. But Janai Broome's in his 3rd year. Yeah, he transferred from Moorhead, but he's in his 3rd year at Auburn. And Walter Clayton's in his 2nd year at Florida, and so on and so forth. You're seeing so much of that I do think there's something to that. Like the best teams we've seen this year, Duke is an outlier when you've got a Cooper Flagg and a Knipple and Malawach and guys like that, changes things. But how much do you think that is? You mentioned so many guys back for Auburn this year, and they went from a 4 seed to a 1 seed and now in a Final Four.
Yeah, it's all about culture. You're able to build culture when you have guys for several seasons. So like Janai Broome, he knows what to do. He knows what Coach Pearl expects in practice. So if there's anybody new that walks into the gym, he's able to help coach and able to make those guys better. So they have a standard that they have in that program. And so when you have guys coming back, they know what that standard is, and they're able to play to that level, and they bring guys along with them. So when you have all new guys, there's nobody that really understands what the standard is or what the culture is supposed to be, and you're trying to build it in one season. That's just hard to do. Unless you have really special freshmen who are at the level that the kids at Duke are. So you have some outliers there. So that can happen, but the best way to build a team is through culture and retention of your players.
And from a coaching standpoint, like how long does it take you to truly get to know a player, like what makes him tick, like to know, all right, I'm saying this thing to him and he's shutting down, or I'm doing this and okay, now he's responding. Like how long does it take you to really get to know where that guy's been in your program 3 or 4 years? I know exactly how to press his buttons.
Yeah, it all depends on the kid, right? Some kids are a little bit easier than others, but I remember one of my first year coaching, and I was different then than I am now. I'm a lot calmer. I think I've meddled with age a little bit, and I remember like really getting into one of my best players, Edwin Geron, and he went on the sidelines and he had tears came to his eyes, and I thought to there's no way I could talk to this kid like this again. Just like that tough love you're trying to give him. You couldn't give that kid tough love, and it was a different way. So sometimes it's easy to figure that out, and sometimes it's a little bit harder depending on how guarded the kids are you have in your program. So fortunately for me, I've had kids. I've been a head coach at Yale for 26 years. I've had one player transfer in 26 years. So we're able to build through that culture and knock on some wood that we able to keep it that way. But it's going to be hard with the advent of what's going on in college basketball.
I was going to say, even with it's a good transition. James Jones is our guest head coach at Yale. It hasn't affected you guys the way that it has some other programs. Is that a concern that you bring these guys in, you develop them, and then this guy shows out that he's really good, and now he's playing on a different team?
Well, it affected us a little bit because Danny Wolf was on our team last year.
That's a good point.
It's interesting. He didn't have a great game against Auburn in the tournament. We still won. I mean, he was just off his game, and he was brilliant in the game against Auburn this year, and they ended up losing the game. But had he been on our team, we might still be playing or have an opportunity to play. So it did affect us a little bit. But that's not something that I see going forward with our program. I think the kids that choose to come to Yale for a reason, and their parents understand what it is and what we do. And is there a kid they're going to transfer at some time before I retire? I'm certain that there will be. But it won't be a mass exodus.
When do you get an idea? Let me ask it this way: Danny Wolf is a guy that showed that he could play that way at Michigan, and I went to Northwest Missouri State, and Ben McCollum, who's now the head coach at Iowa, took a bunch of Northwest Missouri State Division II guys that won national championships and took them to Drake, and they win in the first round. They beat Mizzou, and so it's like, these guys were pretty good. They could play at the Division II level, and they can clearly play at the Division I level. How many guys throughout your career have you looked at and said, I'm glad he's playing for me, but I know this guy could be at one of these top programs anywhere in America and put up, 15, 20 points a night?
Oh, no question. Like this past year, John Poulikitis could have played anywhere in the country. Bez Mbang could have played anywhere in the country. Those guys are really high-level players, and they fit the bill, like the size of them and their athleticism. They fit the bill where they could have been really good on a lot of different programs, and I'm happy that they stayed for their senior year because, they could have taken money and gone someplace else, but they got into this together. Their parents were behind them, and it's more than about a transaction. It's more about the transformation. If anybody listening saw our press conference at the end of the game and the tears in John's eyes and Bez's eyes about their relationship and the fact that they won't be able to play with each other ever again and put on a Yale uniform, that was meaningful. That was heartfelt, and that was real. I don't know that you get that from kids that play someplace for a year in terms of what that feels like. The growth that they had over their 4 years, and so that's what's special. I think what happens with college basketball, and through all this, the kids are getting paid, we lose all the lessons that are learned in college basketball, and all the lessons about staying together and fighting through, those lessons are lost.
Visiting with James Jones, head coach of Yale. Are the Cinderellas lost, do you think? That's been a common theme, or at least a conversation. You guys were a winner over a 4 seed last year. It didn't happen this year, but you guys were one of the Cinderella teams last year. Is there people have said the last couple of years have maybe seen a trend with NIL that the wealth gap is maybe growing and maybe Cinderella is gone?
No, so here's the thing. I'm always going to bet on myself, and I'm a Cinderella. I'm always going to be a Cinderella at Yale. We're never going to be a team that's going to be a 4 seed or a 5 seed, so we're always going to be an underdog going into any game, and I expect to win future games in the NCAA tournament. I don't think it's gone. Like in 2008, all number 1 seeds made it, and no one, talked about the Cinderellas are gone at that point. I get it. I understand it. It's harder to do it, but it's certainly going to be possible.
Visiting with James Jones. Do you like, the Ivy League changed, what was it, 7-8 years ago from the regular season to the conference tournament championship to get the automatic bid. Do you like that it's now the conference tournament? Because we see some of the lower, leagues, and it's like, man, you play all season long to get that shot, and then you've got to go and take care. Like you guys, it's 2 shots in the air with Princeton from 3, and you're looking at it going, if that goes in, our season's over.
Yeah, I actually wasn't thinking that. That never goes through my mind.
Well, you weren't.
No,
some fans might have been thinking that.
Somebody might have been thinking about it. James Jones was not thinking that. The glass is always half full for me. As a matter of fact, it's always overflowing. But I'll tell you the story this way. When I first got to the league, I lobbied for a tournament because we were not very good, and I wanted another chance at winning the championship. And Fran Dunphy, who was at Penn at the time, love Fran, excellent basketball coach, better person. He said that the tournament wouldn't be good for Penn, but if it's better for the league, I'm all for it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. We go 13-1 in the league. We win our games by average of 12 points. And so the pressure that our players felt and their coach felt going into the IB tournament was mighty, just because, all of a sudden you lose one of these games and you're out, and all the work that you put in doesn't matter. But what I will tell you is, when you win those games, and we won 4 of the 7 championships that we've had, there's nothing.
Is that all?
There's nothing better, right? And having the ribbons come down and that experience, I think hardens you for the NCAA tournament and makes you better. Yeah. So I wouldn't get rid of the tournament just because of that. Now it's hard, and it's harder for us.
Yeah.
But we've won it when we were the number 1 seed, and we won it when we haven't been. So it's been good to us. So I can't look negatively upon it.
I was going to say, like, for you, it's interesting you bring up Penn, because I'm like, well, now you guys are in that position to where you're winning the regular season and then having to go and double down and go and win the conference tournament too to get a chance. But it's interesting you talk about, by doing that, it gets you ready for the NCAA tournament.
And it's experience. So this is what you have. At the end of the day, when your playing career is over, the kids that are taking money to go play places, and again, I don't look down upon anybody that does that, but that money at some point is going to be gone. Whatever you purchase is going to be gone or tarnished. But what you're always going to have are your memories, your experiences, and your relationships. And I think that is lost upon what's going on in college basketball right now.
James Jones, head coach of Yale. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Best of luck, continued success there in the Ivy League. And no doubt next year I think we'll see Yale's name pop up and people will go, that's my Cinderella right there. I like that. The matchup with Yale against insert team here, I really like it.
Well, I like the way you're talking, Jesse. And we'll see if we can make it happen.
Absolutely. James Jones. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue more Zone right after this. Derek, Chiefs Digest, and 41 is the Mike podcast joining us here in the zone. Matt, how are you, sir?
I am doing pretty well, Jason. Sounds like you were having a busy couple of days at the Final Four.
You know, it is very busy here. Today's show is going to be packed, and hopefully it works out. Of course, you know, all it takes is like one interview to be moved back like 15 minutes, and everything starts to crumble. But right now, feeling pretty good about what is going to happen over the next few hours. Plus, I get to talk to you, which is great. I went and watched my first ever three-point and slam dunk contest last night, which at times was fun, at times had too much downtime, and I'm like, what is going on here? What are we doing? Let's get to this. And the dunk contest wasn't as enjoyable, mainly because I don't know that dunk contests are all that enjoyable anymore anyway. But the three-point shootout was really fun, and Caleb Grill lost in the championship, and the women's side was incredibly entertaining. So, you know, it has been busy. It's the first time I've gone to one of those. I've gone to the Final Four almost every year, Matt, in the last, 15, 20 years or so, and I've never gone to one of the three-point / slam dunk contests that the NABC does with the College All-Stars. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's go check it out with Caleb Grill and Poindexter, competing in that with the local teams. And so I had some fun. I'm glad I did it. But, it makes for a longer night.
A lot of fun. Thought Caleb was going to pull it out. That would have been pretty cool. But it is nice to see some, at least some Missouri Tiger representation at the Final Four.
Yes, it is nice that, yeah, Caleb is here, Tamar Bates is here, Dennis Gates is here. Unfortunately, the rest of the team is not here. And we'll talk with Dennis Gates coming up about an hour and 10 minutes from now. We'll see what he has to say. We've interviewed him a couple of times here at the Final Four. And so certainly this year, the most successful season with the roughest ending in the 3 years for Dennis Gates. It's only been 3 years. First year, he won a tournament game. So it's like, you know what, won a tournament game, ascending. Didn't know what was going to happen in year two, but the turnaround they had. So, I mean, Tamar Bates talking about that in the previous hour, about that was the goal. And certainly he did a good enough job with that. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, let's start with something that is specifically Chiefs player related, and then I want to get into Clark Hunt's thoughts and Chiefs in Brazil against the Chargers, potentially looking like they're the favorites to do that, playing on Christmas Day. The rule that hasn't really been discussed about the Hard Knocks thing that I want to talk about. We'll get into all of that here during our conversation, but let's start with Nazeeh Johnson. And we talked, I think, last week we talked about Nazeeh Johnson, that we discussed, the signing, and people were sort of frustrated and upset because of the salary cap, and we discussed how if he was on his rookie deal it would have been this, but he was released and practice squad. Well, that salary cap has now been dropped to $1.2 million. What do you make of the Chiefs saving a couple of $1 million on Nazeeh Johnson, and how do we get to this point to where Nazeeh's cool with restructuring his deal and taking $1.2 million instead of a 3.3 cap hit, but we really know guaranteed dollars are all that really matters in the NFL contracts?
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, it happens a lot when guys do end up signing tenders for less than an offer, and particularly because remember, even after they sign those tenders, even for like a restricted free agent like Nazeeh was for that fourth year of their NFL career, that's not guaranteed. So he could have gone to training camp. Hey, if things didn't work out, Chiefs could say, hey, you know what, Nazeeh, not going to happen for you, so we're going to move on. That can put a player in a much more difficult position. So now, hey, Nazeeh probably signs for a little bit less. There's some guaranteed money in there, so it's kind of an everybody wins situation. But it's not uncommon. I mean, especially for players, to get a little bit of a guarantee so that they at least they know they're making something. And Nazeeh, I don't think there's any doubt. He wants to be in Kansas City. Chiefs want him, so it's kind of a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, Mike Edwards is also brought back. Sort of goes in line with what we've talked about, a continual theme with Brett Veach of the draft approaches, and every single position seems to be handled to some degree. And this way, look, if there's a safety that is, there on the board in the first round, and it's like, this guy shouldn't be here, certainly they could draft that. But if they go through the entire draft and there's no safety, which is kind of thought to be an expectation, then, hey, you've got four safeties with Mike Edwards. And Brian Cook and Jaden Hicks and Shamari Connor, and throw in Deion Bush as well, that if Connor needs to play the slot or they want him to still do those things. What do you make of the Mike Edwards signing and a reunion with the Chiefs to a degree of a guy who played a pretty significant role 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes sense. Obviously, a player that's familiar with the system. Chiefs liked him. He played well in that system before. And different situation, because now, like you mentioned, with the draft picks that the Chiefs have put into that room, and even with not having, Justin Reed back, hey, Mike Edwards wouldn't be projecting as a starter right now. I mean, he'd be a backup, and that tells you about the depth of that room, that if a guy that was a pretty integral player for you a couple of years ago can come back and now probably be a backup player for you, I think it tells you that at least that room is better. I mean, hey, guys get old quick in the NFL, so Mike Edwards isn't going to be the same guy that he was a couple of years ago, but still a very useful player, and as a backup and insurance, because hey, guys get hurt. You're probably still banking a little bit on what you've got with Brian Cook and how he's going to look in year 2 coming back from that ankle surgery. I mean, I'm pretty optimistic about him. I know the Chiefs are too, that he's going to bounce back, but Edwards absolutely gives you some insurance there. So it's a guy that they're familiar with, and it seems like a pretty safe risk.
Yeah, visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. You mentioned guys get old quickly, and that is true. I am really curious about what it will look like for Mike Edwards because, again, he played a role with the Chiefs when they beat San Francisco a couple of years ago, and obviously, filling in for Brian Cook and with his injury. But he didn't play much football last year. I mean, he signed with the Bills. They released him, went down to Atlanta. It's the NFC South. And didn't do much there either. So, and then being available, I am curious about what he offers. But hey, you know what? It's depth, as you're talking about, and it's somebody that's familiar with the system. And if need be, then it's probably 3 or 4 guys deep as to the reason why he is going to be out there on the field.
Yeah, like we said, I mean, it's a depth piece, and and just because he hasn't maybe and once again, I mean, scheme fit is a big part of it too. I mean, guys go to different teams, and if it just doesn't click as well, I mean, this is a guy that is going to click with this defense. I mean, it's obviously been there before, so I don't think it's like I said, I think it's a pretty decent additional move. And you know what? I mean, the Chiefs are making some other moves. I know that they brought in, I think it's Janoris Robinson. It was a former 4th-round pick for the Vikings today. Hasn't really clicked anywhere else yet. But hey, this is the time of year for those kind of moves. I mean, these are guys that, hey, might not make your roster. You don't know. I mean, if a guy like Mike Edwards might not make your roster, but these are the kind of moves you make this time of year to add some depth, especially before the draft, because you just don't know how the draft is going to unfold.
Yep, visiting with Matt Derrick, and I did not see the Janarius Robinson move, and that'll be one of those to where it's like, okay, that's nice. It might be a guy that's in training camp. You're like, Robinson. Who's that Robinson guy again? All right, cool. I mean, you never know. Some of these guys may not make the squad, and I think that's part of the Nazeeh Johnson part. And, if the Chiefs, look at him and say, well, we don't need to pay him all this particular money in a salary cap and we've got these other guys, maybe we move on, as opposed to, I'm going to adjust my contract and I'll just sign for the guaranteed dollars that's going to be there anyway, and that's going to help out the cap, and I feel like I've got more of a secure spot on this team. So, we'll see how all of that shakes out. And 3 weeks from last night is the first round, 3 weeks from tonight, the second and third round, where the Chiefs will have 3 different selections. Maybe they'll have more. Maybe they won't select somebody in the first round 3 weeks from last night. We'll find out. Matt Derrick is our guest. All right, Matt, let's get into the conversation that's been going on the last couple of days. And we had the conversation yesterday on the air. And when the news came out on Wednesday, we talked about it live with Sterling and Dylan and sort of talking about what Clark Hunt would like the Chiefs to be. And that is a team that is America's team, but he wants to be the world's team and would like to be the Christmas Day version of the Dallas Cowboys. What do you make of the comments of Clark Hunt, and do you think the Chiefs are ultimately going to be that team that every single year is a Christmas Day mainstay for the NFL?
I think if you're an NFL team that raises your hand and says you want to play every Christmas, NFL's going to make it happen. I don't think that every team wants to be that, and I get it. I've heard from a little bit of Chiefs fan fatigue. That's like, hey, we want to play on Christmas every year. That's a commitment. That's a you're just every year. You're maybe if you got season tickets, you're missing a little bit of time from the family, and I get it. But you're right. I mean, the Chiefs, top to bottom, I mean, and this has been something that they've talked about a lot behind the scenes the last few years, but it's becoming more a public thought now. They want to be the world's team of American football. And you saw that a lot this week. I mean, they obviously added a few more international markets where they're now allowed to kind of push their brand in ways that they weren't before, adding the UK, Ireland, Spain is there. The Chiefs really want to play in Spain and Germany. I mean, those are two locations. If they got a chance to play a road game in Spain, they would love to. But I still think their preference, just because of how much they have spent on the German market, would probably be their number one place to go. But I don't think they'd have any qualms about giving up a home game to play in Spain as well. And then you throw in, and like you were alluding to earlier, I mean, the possibility of maybe playing the Chargers in Brazil in Week 1. I mean, it's a hard court press. I mean, that's what the Chiefs want to be, and so anytime that they've got a chance to plant their flag and to be in a game that's going to get worldwide acclaim and at least acknowledgement. I mean, those Christmas Day games, they're going to be on Netflix. I think the third one that they're adding in prime time with the sort of a triple header now, I think that's going to be on Amazon. Those are global windows. I mean, it's available everywhere around the globe. So that's exactly, and that's why I think that the Chiefs are maybe a little bit more, on the cutting edge as far as that goes, in embracing streaming. I mean, remember they were the first Amazon game on streaming. They haven't been afraid of that, and even though I know a lot of fans don't like it because it's one more subscription that you've got to have, Chiefs have not been afraid of it because I think that they understand it and they get it that these streaming platforms are much more global than just being even on a national primetime game in the United States, and that's where they want to be. And so if they can plant their flag and have Christmas Day every single year on a streaming platform, I think they're going to take it.
How much of this, Matt, is, I mean, business-wise, it would make sense from that standpoint. I mean, whether the fans like it or not. I mean, from a business standpoint, if you're the world's team, then, yeah, your logo, your apparel, your name, your marketing ability is out there and increases as, every single week passes. And, yes, Taylor Swift is a part of that. There's no doubt. And the Chiefs' success as the, dynasty is a big part of it as well. I do wonder, Matt, and this would be, I don't know, we'd have to be between the ears of Clark Hunt and Lamar Hunt and the Hunt family of the years past. I do wonder, like the Christmas Day stuff and the World's team, how much it is. Now, I'm going to make an analogy and a comparison, but it is not from the Clark Hunt to Lamar Hunt type thing. I'm just making it specifically totally different, but an analogy of a family, like how much a kid is like searching for his dad's approval and doing things over and over for his dad's approval. It's the first one that comes to my mind. But I'm not talking about Clark Hunt to Lamar Hunt. What I mean is the Chiefs chasing the Cowboys. And some of the things they're doing is because, the Hunt family living in Dallas, from Dallas, and it was the Cowboys, and they moved from Dallas because of the Cowboys to now have that sort of part of, Marsha, that some of this is a chasing the Cowboys, catching the Cowboys, to surpass the Cowboys and say, see, it took us a while, but we are now the world's team, star on the side of your helmet that claims to be America's team. How much is some of the motivation there with the familial part of the Cowboys/Texans aspect dating back to the 60s?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that really fascinates me. I hadn't really thought about it before, but I think that's only natural. I mean, I would really be interested in asking Clark about that, and and how much of it maybe does play into some of the at least the family pride in his team and everything, and what they've been able to do. I mean, I still think bottom line, hey, they're doing what they think is best for their franchise and for their team, and achieving their goal. Which, and you're right. I mean, there is certainly, I think, a little bit of, even if it's passive aggressive, there is a little bit of, the Chiefs have not been focused. I mean, their goal has not been to say that they're going to be America's team and try to take over the Cowboys for that claim. They've always, when they talk about it, it's about being the world's team. And they know that they've got a window. I mean, I think that they also understand that, and that's part of what the generational aspect of this is that it can make a difference because how did the Cowboys become America's team? Well, I mean, they had it because they had Roger Staubach, they had a Captain America. I mean, they had the war hero, all of this. And the guy that everybody loved, and that's how they truly captured America was, with that good guy image and everything. And it was one generation was all it took for them to win the title of America's team. I mean, you've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Travis Kelce, you got Taylor Swift. You've got that opportunity now to capitalize and try to make yourself the world's team so that the next quarterback is the Chiefs, and even when maybe the fortunes aren't as good, hey, the rest of the world's still going to be wearing your jerseys, and they're still going to be thinking you're the world's team.
Yeah, and it's a great point about capitalizing on the time right now because, kids today, I mean, I guess if you're watching the NFL right now, the Lions are a little bit different than what they've been for most of our lives. And you would go, well, why are the Lions every single year on Christmas Day? Well, they've been a tradition since it's as old as time. I mean, the Lions and Thanksgiving. I think I said Christmas, but I meant Thanksgiving. But the Lions and Thanksgiving and the Cowboys and Thanksgiving, it's just simply that tradition in the NFL. And, the Lions, one of the oldest franchises in the NFL. And so they've been on there. And whether they're good or bad, it's just sort of, the Lions are on Thanksgiving. And in 20 years, there may be some kids asking, why are the Chiefs on Christmas Day every year? What have they done to, I hope that's never the case, Matt, obviously, but you capitalize right now. And then, you keep that brand out there that every year that happens. Do you like that? There can be a lot of different angles here with that question. It's sort of open-ended, but do you like the Chiefs becoming the Christmas Day Lions and Cowboys to Thanksgiving?
I'm torn on it because not only, I mean, I'm not out just being, I'm partly being selfish because I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's different angles. It could be selfish. It could be fans. It could be the workers at Arrowhead. It could be the players. It could be nationally. There's a lot of angles to if you like it or don't like it for the Chiefs being a yearly thing on Christmas.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because we don't really get to talk about that aspect of it because, obviously only Detroit and Dallas have had that Thanksgiving experience of, hosting every single year and playing every single year on that day. And, what it kind of means as far as just everybody, like you said, I mean, it's not just even those folks, but people, hotels are going to be even more booked than usual, restaurants and going to be even more busy than usual for that time of year. I mean, I know it's crazy. Everybody's working at Christmas, but, there might be a lot of people that end up having to work a lot more on Christmas Day and being away from their families. And it's not just once, but every single year. And that I think obviously would be a challenge. That would be the downside of it. But then again, I mean, what's it mean to you? Is it important enough? And I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if it's really been much of a detriment for fans in Dallas and Detroit and the people who work there, just knowing that every year they're going to be working on those days.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to affect the fan base. I mean, the fans. I mean, it always seems like even when the Detroit was terrible, they pack them in. I mean, they get everybody in there, and they get their fans in there, and maybe that's the one. Even when you're terrible, Jason, maybe that's the one thing that people gather around. So, even in the post-Mahomes era, hey, the Chiefs are 4-13, or probably 4-14 because it'll be an 18-game season by then. Will Christmas Day at Arrowhead be the one game a year that everybody gets up for and everything? Maybe that'll be the case. I don't know. I hear enough, however, especially in the last couple of days since it's, the news about the triple header have come out and Clark Hunt talking about wanting to play on Christmas Day every year. it does seem like there's a little bit more fan resistance. It's like, wait a minute, we'd like to have at least a year or two off. Doesn't need to be every year because, I mean, if you're a hardcore fan, that's going to cut into your family time, your Christmas time every single year.
How much is, and by the way, looking at this last night of like the Thanksgiving, and I didn't know how far back it went. I also didn't realize that the Lions were the third Detroit franchise to play on Thanksgiving. That the Detroit Panthers were the first ones to play on Thanksgiving, and then the next year the Detroit Wolverines, the second NFL franchise, played on Thanksgiving, and then finally in 1934 was the first year the Lions played on Thanksgiving, and every year since then, and then the Dallas Cowboys did that as well, and also in 1952 the Dallas Texans I believe played on Thanksgiving, and so that was before the Cowboys were the every year thing annually for the Cowboys and Lions. Interesting sort of going back and seeing the history of it. I had no clue that it was a Thanksgiving Day thing for like the Lions, for almost 100 years. I wouldn't have guessed that, but that's the case, and I don't know, maybe 100 years from now people are going, oh, the Chiefs played on Christmas Day, and the Cowboys thing I do think is interesting, and I know we need to break because we're going to talk with Jason Horowitz coming up later on this hour. But the Cowboys thing is interesting, Matt, because you know this, and a lot of Chiefs fans will know this and remember this. And one of the first Chiefs games I ever worked, the first time they added a third game on Thanksgiving, which franchise raised their hand and said, "We'll do it. We'll be the ones to host the Thanksgiving Day game." Us. And it was the Chiefs. Thanksgiving Day, the first time they added that third game. I don't know. I just think I think it's more than coincidence that the Chiefs have been wanting to find a way to get into that avenue, that area of the NFL. That, hey, we'll be the Thanksgiving Day game on Thursday night, and Lamar Hunt. That's awesome. And now we want to be the Christmas Day team as well. That they were the first one. It was boom. Chiefs are playing on Thanksgiving. That was the first game I ever worked. I got called in that day like, hey, this guy can't do it tonight. Can you do it? Hell yes. I'm going to cover a Chiefs game. You're damn right. Sorry, family. I'm not going to be there for Thanksgiving. I'm going to the Chiefs Broncos game on Thursday night.
Oh, that's going to happen for a lot of people. It's going to get their first chance because it's going to be like, I don't want to work on Christmas Day. How about we send the intern?
That's right. Sterling, hate to tell you, man, but he's actually going to be out of town on that day. So what am I thinking, Sterling? That was dumb. He won't be able to do that.
But think about this, Jason, real quick. I mean, the Chiefs, they wanted to be that third game on Thanksgiving. They wanted it to be the tradition and to be the team that plays in that third game every single year, just like Dallas and Detroit. And, I mean, let's face it, the reason why the NFL didn't give it to them is because the Chiefs were terrible back then.
Yep.
I mean, had they had Patrick Mahomes at the time that they added that third game, maybe the Chiefs are still hosting Thursday night, that game on Thanksgiving. That's why you get the chance for Christmas now, because that's the team you are.
Yeah, that's an interesting point for that one. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I do want to talk about a couple of the rules changes, but I also want to get into a question with Matt because one of the things I've seen from fans is sort of a bargaining. Like, yeah, I'm okay if this is the case with the Chiefs maybe taking home games that would be part of a season ticket package and taking those overseas, being on Christmas Day, being a Black Friday, game every year, being the team on Friday night of the first part of the year that raises their hand and said, let's go to Brazil. I'm cool with that. But is there something in return where that added revenue will then equal more cash to help out with signing players? In a salary-capped league, certain ways you can work around it is being more of the cash-heavy teams. I want to talk about what could be added if the Chiefs become that team, the world's team, and how that could help the organization, the franchise overall. And then we're going to do a couple of rules changes as well. We'll talk with Matt Derrick, continue our conversation, hanging out here at Radio Row at the Final Four, presented by Easton Roofing and National VA Loans. More Zone coming up next. An X15 engine from Cummins, featuring better fuel efficiency, immense power, and backed by 25-plus years of experience. The 2027 X15, built to rise above the challenges of tomorrow. The X15, forever rising. So are the Kansas City Chiefs. Matt Derrick is with us. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. All right, Matt, how much can there be added revenue from being the quote-unquote world's team and the jerseys and things like that can be bought, and how much of that is then the shared revenue or revenue that doesn't have to be shared? What impact could this make for the Chiefs by being the world's team, and can that be translated to impact on the roster?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to think about NFL revenues and what gets shared and what doesn't is, it's either national or local revenue. And basically, everything that's national revenue gets shared. So that's your broadcast revenue. It's your NFL licensing deal. So jerseys being sold, it does great for your brand. It does a lot for building your fan base. Does nothing for your revenue other than the fact that you get 1/32 of all those jersey sales. But everything gets pooled together. So, you don't really gain much of an advantage financially from, hey, Patrick Mahomes jerseys being sold in Germany, but as far as enhancing your brand, that's what it helps. Local revenues, which, NFL shares 40% of ticket revenues, and 60% the home team gets to keep. So if you can sell more tickets and sell more expensive tickets, you get to keep all that. Chiefs have a huge advantage with having their own parking lot because, think about stadiums that have downtown stadiums and might be parking elsewhere. You get to keep 100% of revenue. So if, by the Chiefs owning essentially owning, because they get to keep all the revenue from parking at the Jackson County Sports Complex, and I'm sure they're going to keep the same situation wherever they go to next. If they move from Jackson County, they're going to get to keep all that parking revenue, and that's a huge one. And they get to keep anything from like corporate sponsorships, local sponsorships, naming rights. They get to keep all that. So, that's where being the world's team can help the Chiefs from a cash flow standpoint the most and the most profitable standpoint, because if you've got more eyeballs on your team, you can sell sponsorships for more. I mean, they're going to remember their deal with GEHA for the naming rights of Arrowhead expires with the lease at Arrowhead. So they're going to be potentially looking for a new sponsor or more money from GEHA for that stadium sponsorship in 2031. That's a huge opportunity for them. But you see with everything else, I mean, the Chiefs have official, vodka, an official, official educational institution and all these things. They get to keep those local sponsorships, and the more of those that you can sell to, and they become more valuable if you've got fans across the world. So, anything that they want to sell and they want to put your name on it, it's going to be more valuable if brands know, hey, wait a minute, the Chiefs have a huge fan base in Germany and Spain. We can tap into that market by attaching ourselves to the Chiefs.
It's an interesting point, yeah, and whenever the stadium, whether it's renovated Arrowhead or build new, on the west side of the state line, then, that naming rights could be worth a whole lot more. And, of course, if you build new over, in Kansas and the surrounding areas, if you're able to have some real estate or some commercial investments that are there, and, hopefully that would mean more money into the team. We'll see what that happens. Ultimately could be more money into the Hunt family's pocket. I don't know, or investors' pocket. Who knows with that, but hopefully that would be the case, and it's one of the reasons why I'm for the Royals moving to a different spot to have a ballpark district around there, because there's already I'll give the benefit of the doubt, because until he says otherwise or proves otherwise, when John Sherman says the added revenue, any profits are going to go right back into the ball club for any baseball district that's built, that any profit, boom, goes into payroll. I will, whether foolishly or not, naivety or not, I will take his word for it until he proves otherwise, and then of course we should be holding his feet to the fire, but we'll find out what happens with that. But Matt, a few minutes left. What do you think about some of the rules changes that are there? The kickoff, they moved it to the 35-yard line. Looks like there are going to be more kickoff returns, maybe up to 70% of kickoff returns in the NFL this year. The expanded replay, They are going to have technology to measure the first downs, which means we don't get the chain gang running out and trying to avoid the players, and then there's no Gene Steratore note card or anything like that. And the tush push has been tabled. Anything you take away from this round of the competition committee's new rules changes?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the tush push, and they're apparently going to rediscuss it in May, and we'll see if the owners come up with a different decision when their coaches and their GMs aren't around than when they are. I mean, there's certainly some conjecture that it might look differently, but it takes 24 owners to change a rule, so that's going to. They need some support because supposedly it was 16-16. I'm only nervous about the using the Hawkeye technology for measuring first downs because UFL and Fox is using this for measuring first downs in that league right now, and they had an example Friday that was just atrocious. Looked like the technology didn't spot the ball anywhere close to where the ball actually was. So I'm not 100% convinced that that's going to eliminate any of the controversies. It might actually create a few new controversies because there might be some places where the humans are better than that, and how their system is going to be set up as far as making sure that they actually correct the technology from time to time, I think is going to be interesting. The kickoff, I just think that's going to be. I don't think it's going to accomplish what they want to. I mean, if you really are worried about a team returning a kick, you're still going to put it out the back of the end zone. If you want to create more returns, you got to move the kickoff back. I mean, that's going to do a lot more, I think, than the touchback line. So we'll see what happens with it this year. And I think we might end up with a lot more ties or some controversial overtime games because that whole thing with giving the teams, a possession but only a 10-minute overtime period, what's going to happen when some team goes out there and, takes 8.5 minutes to go down and score a touchdown, and now the other team's got 90 seconds to respond? Somebody's going to be upset. So I don't think it's going to make anybody any happier.
I thought maybe the overtime, just why even have the quarters? Why have it timed at all? Like college football doesn't have it timed. You just play, and each gets the possession at the 25-yard line. I know that's different being at the 25, but what's the point of having it timed if you say both teams are going to possess the ball no matter what? I know they get to, it would be a tie at 10 minutes, whatever. So if one team possesses it, like you said, for 8.5 minutes, now the next team gets a minute and a half to go and tie and score a touchdown. Well, if you say you want it equitable, that's not equitable. So it'd be equitable if you don't have a time at that point. Both teams will possess it for a full possession no matter how long it takes. And if one scores a touchdown, the other then has to score a touchdown, go for two, or then it becomes sudden death at that point. It would make sense more there rather than stop with the umbrella and of the cloak of player safety. Like, come on, it's five less. You can play 70 minutes, but 75, no, that's where we've drawn the line. And we know that all the studies show that anybody that plays more than 70 minutes has a greater increase in a wrist injury. And 70 minutes is right at the top. Anything more than that, boy, player safety, and we might have to deal with the union.
Yeah, and to your point, and this would create a lot more tie situations. But considering that the NFL doesn't want to play any more than 10 minutes, apparently, if they want to limit the time play and increase equitable outcomes, why not just give each team one possession, and whatever happens at the end of those possessions, that's it. If both teams score a touchdown, great, tie game. If you score a touchdown and you go second, you get the chance to go for two. Go for two and try and win it that way. If the other team scores a touchdown or gets a field goal, now you need to go get a touchdown. There would probably be more ties in that situation, but since the NFL, clearly their goal is that they just don't want to play overtimes very long, then just give each team a possession and be done with it.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it as always, brother. We will talk next week. Enjoy the basketball this week. I know your Tennessee Volunteers did not make it this far, so I apologize. That's rough, man. That's tough for you. Who do you think comes out on top on Monday?
Hey, my pick before the tournament started was Duke over Florida, so I am sticking with Duke over Florida.
There we go. You will you will make an SSJ very happy and a Jason very sad. Oh well, no big deal. I need Florida over Duke. Damn it, Florida over Duke, and I win the office pool. Duke over Florida, and St. John wins the office pool. Any other combination, there's a lot of different people that could win. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Matt Derrick, you're the man, brother. As always, appreciate it. We'll talk next week.
Sounds great, my friend. Take care.
Absolutely. There's Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We are expected to be talking with Jason Horowitz with Westwood One, but also voice of the Raiders. So get his thoughts on the Raiders. Get his thoughts on Gardner Minshew, right? I mean, Gardner Minshew, new guy in town, backup quarterback to Patrick Mahomes. We'll talk to him about that. And I don't know how that Raiders game ended in Kansas City last year. Do I bring that up? Do I not? I don't know. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. Stand out and hire fast. Start at Indeed.com/credit. Jason Horowitz is our guest, Westwood One.
I know that music.
Voice of the Raiders as well. Enemy territory. You cool with that?
I feel like we've done this now 2 years in a row, or maybe 3 years in a row.
It's been 3 years, since you got the job, and so was 24 your third year?
Yes, this upcoming year will be my fourth season.
Fourth season,
third coach.
You and Lincoln
third
Kennedy,
GM.
yes. You counting years or GMs and coaches?
I
feel like
hope
running together.
I hope it starts to count just years. I think it's just about to start counting just years.
Very good. I do want to talk to you a little bit about the Raiders, but we'll start with Westwood One and the tournament. And it's not exactly like the Red Zone channel, but you do get some bouncing around in the studio. You get to talk a little bit about it. You head out to this game, that game. Do you like that, where all the action is there, preferably to being on site and play-by-play and bringing the action of one specific game?
Well, I mean, those things are very different. I love calling games, so that part of it's different. But the tournament itself is my favorite event ever. The first year I had the job as the host of the national radio broadcast, we still lived in New York City, and the Westwood One studios at the time were in the CBS Broadcast Center on 57th and 10th. And I remember walking down 10th Avenue from our apartment, and I was skipping, listening to Stevie Wonder for once in my life, because the tournament was my favorite thing growing up. And when we were growing up, it was just on one channel, and it was Greg Gumbel, rest in peace, and he was bouncing things around, and that was what I realized what I was going to do. So I still love that aspect of it, because at any given moment you could have 2 or 3 end of game situations at the same time. And so I do love that part.
Yeah, we joke about it all the time. It's like kids don't know these days that there would be one game, and then every once in a while you might see some scores at the top,
right?
That's right. Or it would, hey, we're breaking into this to bring you your local team, on
that's
CBS.
Right. That's right.
All you really got.
And they've staggered the times now, too. It used to be within a 30-minute window, all 4 arenas would start at the same time. It wasn't like, hey, we're doing 12:10, 12:50, 1:32. It was 12:10, 12:20, 12:30, 12:30.
Yes.
So that part of it's changed too.
Yeah, and when we were in probably elementary or junior high or high school, the cool teacher would wheel in the TV,
100%.
So put it on
100%. And I definitely put a thermometer under the hot water, and I had 107 fever to stay home. And I think that one was a little high for my mom to realize that it was true.
My son had spring break this year that week, so he got to stay home Thursday and Friday and just watch the games and stuff. And not like I don't get to watch the games because this is what I do. So, but I'm like, man, you got spring break. You don't know what it was like when you had to try to check out the scores or whatever. Man, you just get to sit at home and watch all the games. Man, that's awesome. Jason Horowitz is our guest. What do you think of these 4 teams? Because it feels like, to a degree, all season we've kind of just been on this collision course with these 4 to meet here in San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we could always say that if you got these type of teams to get to that point. And I think last year in the championship game, if we would have been having this conversation on Monday, we probably would have said the same thing about Purdue and UConn. Mm-hmm. So people are constantly trying to find the bigger picture of where we are with college basketball, and maybe we're heading there. But certainly with the way that this is going right now, Houston from November has been unbelievable. Auburn's been the number 1 team all year long. Florida came on from January on, and you get Duke and Cooper Flagg, and he was the most talked about player coming into the season. So you get all those things together, all coming together in San Antonio, the same spot where the only other all 4 ones, and it fits.
Yeah, Jason Horowitz is our guest, Westwood One studio host and voice of the Raiders. What are we getting in Kansas City with Gardner Minshew?
A mustache? I don't know. I mean, so
personality kind of like.
He's a dude. He's a different cat. Yeah.
He's a vibes guy. We like to say.
That sounds right. Yeah. I mean, there have been times. There were stories written last year where he, he had a camper and like he would just live in that thing. And I definitely, the first time I met Gardner was in the team hotel during training camp, because remember last year we didn't do it in Vegas. We did it out in Orange County, and so everyone was in the hotel. And he wasn't wearing shoes, and why would you wear shoes? So you got all those things going on. So there's some of that, but from a football player perspective, he wasn't good, but that doesn't mean he can't be good. Yeah. Gardner Minshew the year before was pretty good for Indianapolis. They were 7-6 and a drop pass away from whatever the running back's name for making the playoffs with Gardner Minshew, and so I think there's some of that, but it was. He made some really bad plays last year that cost the team games. Yeah. His turnovers were the reason the Raiders struggled.
And from the Chiefs' perspective, the only time you want to see him play is Week 18.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like,
preseason. Preseason would be good.
Preseason's fine. Yeah. Maybe if there's a blowout, but the Chiefs don't do that.
No.
They don't
Carson Wentz took 4 or 5 snaps throughout the first 17 weeks last year, didn't he?
I think maybe. I'm not sure.
He took some kneel downs.
Yes. I don't think he did. They didn't win many games.
That's
they
true.
Always
you guys did
win
at the buzzer.
It was, just like playing the Raiders, both times. 27-20 and then, 19-17. Those things happen. So maybe Week 18 for Gardner Minshew. I did think it was great his press conference that he had when he was introduced to the media and the fans and everything. At the end, they were like, you're known to be sort of a different kind of guy. Is there anything that you want to do while you're in Kansas City? And he said, I've always wanted to learn how to cattle ranch. And
Sounds right.
And I'm like,
That sounds right. Well, you got a dude from the middle of Alabama who's
Right.
been all over the country, including Pullman, Washington. So, that sounds about right.
Be a cattle farmer, own a ranch. I figure there's probably some around here that maybe I can check out and do that. He's like, but I got some football to play in the meantime.
I think Gardner is a very serviceable NFL backup, and you guys have had some really good NFL backups in the last 15 years,
and they've had to come through. I mean, Chad Henne in the playoffs, Matt Moore throughout the season when Mahomes dislocated his kneecap. You had to have some guys come through there. Raiders offseason moves. You feel good about Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. Seems like Tom Brady's making a little bit of a difference there.
Well, John Spytek too. I mean, obviously he and Tom know each other from their days at Michigan together. But I like their approach. You take the thing you need the most. It was not a heavy in the aspect of what was available from quarterback perspective. There wasn't a lot out there, right? Your supply wasn't very large. You had Sam Darnold, or you could make a trade for Geno Smith, Justin Fields, the Aaron Rodgers saga is not fun, like all those things. So I think with the supply that you could get, they got a great decision, and then they went for a great choice. He's still being paid a lot less than the average starting NFL quarterback, who's a good starting quarterback, particularly a Pro Bowler. So I think that's good. And then from the approach of some of the guys they brought in a lot of guys with a lot to prove. Eric Stokes, Devin White, they've all been guys who were really good at times but have struggled with injuries and other things. And so you take that chance of, hey, can we catch lightning in a bottle to get them to what they were? And if you can, you got guys on really inexpensive deals, and they still have the most cap space for next year.
Yeah, and they are. It's a division that might be the greatest coaching division in history with
these
four coaches.
Yeah,
I mean, it's unbelievable. Super Bowls.
Yeah,
these guys that have either coached in one or won Super Bowls.
I would be cautious about that though, because remember 2 years ago when when the Raiders brought in Devontae and the Broncos brought in Russell Wilson and the Chargers, it's going to be the best division. It's going to be the first ever division where everyone's going to finish above 500, and I think 3 of the teams finished below 500.
Yeah, and we've talked about that offseason because the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, and then all of the other teams in the West made their moves. Buffalo signed Von Miller, and it was like so much money was spent to catch the Chiefs, and it was the Chiefs that invested in the draft.
That's
while
right.
Other people were investing in free agency.
And it didn't work. Yeah,
no, it did not. But I like the signing of hiring of Pete Carroll. I think I compared him to Alex Smith as a quarterback that the Chiefs needed quarterback stability when Andy Reid got here, and Alex Smith offered stability at the quarterback position. And I think the Raiders just need stability in the organization just to get to the next level. You need to start from the ground up somewhere.
You know what? I think sometimes too with what's happened the last 2-3 years is you forget that there was stability at quarterback. Mm-hmm. Stability at quarterback wasn't for the franchise good enough. 10 years of Derek Carr and a lot of production, but it wasn't good enough to get where they wanted to be. And so in letting Derek go to the bench and then the Saints, you lost the stability of the rest of it because there hasn't ever been stability in the coaching ranks over the last 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it is. So now hopefully you have that.
Yeah. Jason Horowitz, Westwood One Raiders play-by-play announcer. Hopefully we get a couple of good games again with Chiefs and Raiders moving forward. And from this side of it, hopefully it ends up as the same result. I know it wasn't the best in Arrowhead this year with the fumble and how that thing was. I didn't mean to bring
No,
I told Dylan, I said I don't think I'm going to bring it up.
No, you should bring it up every time. Listen, I've been to Arrowhead now 3 times. The first time was the Raiders had a 17-0 lead on Monday Night Football Week 5.
Terrible roughing the passer call on Chris Jones.
Sure, but with Josh McDaniels going for 2 down 1 with 4 minutes to go.
Right.
And even in that, they still had a chance to win and didn't. But that was a great game. The Christmas Day back-to-back defensive touchdowns. And then last year was an unforgettable, oh my God, we're going to win, and they did.
Yeah, no, they've been some fun ones. Maybe less drama moving forward. I don't know, but I doubt that.
I hope not. From an announcer standpoint, I hope not. Can we get the booth a little bit closer to the field, though?
Never happening.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Never going to happen. Not at all. Jason Horowitz, Westwood One. Thank you, man. I appreciate it as always. Love our conversations, and enjoy the games coming up this weekend.
Are you guys going to have Christmas Day every year? Is that going to happen?
I think they're going to do it. Yeah, Clark Hunt wants to be the Christmas Day Cowboys. Okay. It wants to be the Chiefs on Christmas Day. I don't know if it's going to be a home game every year.
I'm pretty sure there were a lot of empty seats when we were there on Christmas Day. Just saying. Do the Chiefs fans want Christmas Day every year?
That's a different discussion.
Okay.
That is a very different.
You guys discuss.
We've had it for the last 3 days. We've been talking about it, and I think there's a mixed bag of, hey, you know what? Chiefs getting respect, and here in flyover country, and everybody wants the Chiefs on the network, and now our team can be a part of something like that. But also, like, do we want to have a game every single Christmas and plan the family stuff around Christmas every single year? I don't know. There's a give and a take to it.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Pro and a con. Always a pro, Jason Horowitz. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. There's Jason Horowitz, Westwood One studio host. You'll hear him tomorrow throughout the day and the afternoon. You heard him throughout this entire tournament as well. And, they got the games. We got them right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. Our coverage here at Westwood One Radio Row presented by Kohl's. Make this spring a stylish one with on-trend looks for every occasion when you shop at Kohl's and Kohl's.com, where families come first. More Zone coming up next. but a contender. Ron Washington, manager for the Angels, saying, I think they understood the work that it took. They're not going to let up on that side with the work ethic and the commitment that it takes, because that's how they made the playoffs. They had to be committed. The camaraderie that went with all of that work, commitment, effort, they've got that now. So each and every one of those guys is not going to let the other one down. That's how you keep it standing. And Guardians manager Stephen Vogt talked about, the division and the 4 teams and 3 of them that made the playoffs. And he said, quote, we played each other tough every time out. It just makes me excited because the AL Central is in such a good space, and to see growth that the Royals had last year, it's going to continue to be a battle every single night. I really like watching that team play, and it's going to be a fight, and we would like Clase to take out India. What? Hold on. Why would? Oh wait, he did not say that, folks. I'm sorry, he did not say that. That would have been a really odd thing for him to say, but he did not say that. Okay,
very candid interview.
I mean, right? I mean, I guess all of the reaching out to the Royals and
Jalen Thompson just makes people feel at ease, and then just let things
that truth
things
serum
are said.
that he developed. My goodness, Jalen, well done. He gets the great quotes from people like that. I think actually it stopped with, I really like watching the team play and it's going to be a fight. I don't think he meant literal fight, but we'll see on April 11th. We'll see a week from today there in Cleveland. I don't think it's going to be a literal fight, but you come inside on here's what I do wonder a week from today, and this is something that we'll be talking about certainly next week as we get ready for that series against the Guardians. I wonder how comfortable the Guardians may be throwing inside. I mean, I don't think they'd be, like, oh, I'm never going to do. But, you come inside a couple of times and start to move the Royals off the plate, and they're moving around. As Vinny said, we were kind of moving around more than we typically would, certainly more than they were. I do wonder what the reaction might be from the Royals side. There might be.
I think I can tell you. I don't think you would go out of your way if you're Vinny. I mean, maybe, but at that point, you almost kind of have to retaliate, because then you're just saying, we'll say something about it, we'll think it, we'll let you do it, and then we'll do nothing about it. So that almost is kind of inviting more inside pitches, where I do feel like we're going to have a little bit of a meeting. It won't be a fight. I think you're right. But I do think I'm predicting in that series at least once there will be a posturing. Everyone comes out of the dugout to stand there, and then maybe a fight happens and 2 warnings are given, and that's it. I don't think anyone will get hit, but I do think there'll be an inside pitch from the Royals that warrants the umpires trying to set a tone at least.
Yeah, and we're saying if the Guardians come inside a couple of times.
Right.
Or even one time in the
I don't
first
even know
inning,
if I think they might.
Yeah,
First
the
couple
Royals,
batters of the game.
True. We'll see who's on the mound next Friday. I haven't even looked to see how the rotation would stack up, but we'll see what that looks like. But I would say first at bat, Jonathan India. That's going to be a really interesting one. Look, I like watching Jonathan India bat, and so with him being leadoff, it for a number of years, Salvi is appointment at bats. You make sure that you're not doing chores or running to the bathroom real quick when Salvi's up at the plate. That was always the case, especially when Salvi went crazy with the 50 home runs. Bobby Witt has become that, certainly. It is appointment television. You will definitely want to watch Bobby Witt at bats. Not saying that Jonathan India is Bobby Witt, but I like watching him take his at-bats. I like watching the approach. I like seeing what he does there as the leadoff hitter. It was annoying where I didn't want to watch anybody that was in the leadoff spot last year. It was like praying that something lucky would happen, that somehow they would find a way for a ball to find a hole on the left or right side of the infield that squeaks through, or a little Texas League, or a dying quail that makes it out to the outfield. Or maybe they get hit by a pitch, or crazily enough, some pitcher on the other team would walk them in front of Bobby Witt. Would make no sense. You're like hoping and praying, and now it's like, you know what, let me watch this Jonathan India at bat. And so that's next week, obviously. Dean Kremer's on the mound for the Baltimore Orioles tonight, and he's fine. He's a major league pitcher against the Royals and Seth Lugo. They should have the advantage in the pitching staff, and the Royals offense has been struggling. So it's like, which of the weaknesses this weekend for the Royals and Orioles is exploited more? Is it the Royals offense exploited by the bad Orioles pitching staff, or is it the Royals offense that is exploiting the bad Royals pitching staff, or the bad Orioles pitching staff, if you follow me? What happens there? Because I think the Lugo and the bullpen will do their thing. The offense for the Orioles is really good, so we'll see what happens with that over these next few days. And looking forward to it. The homestand returning 6:40 tonight with the Royals in action and Seth Lugo out there on the mound. We continue our conversations here from the Final Four in San Antonio. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Walking around the room is the head basketball coach for the Missouri Tigers, Dennis Gates. We will take a timeout, and we will talk with Dennis Gates coming up next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 710 WHB. And joining us now, the head coach of the Missouri Tigers, Dennis Gates, joining us here in the zone. Dennis, how are you, sir?
Well, appreciate you guys having me, man. Definitely great to be here in San Antonio. But would rather be here with my team, as well as a lot of other coaches that's here, right?
Yes, I know. I saw you and Tamar hanging out as he's getting ready for the NABC game, and it's like, would be cool if those guys were doing the same thing just over at the Alamo Dome today.
No question. Tamar's a great kid, man. I enjoyed coaching him. I'm going to miss him. Tiger fans will miss him.
Mm-hmm.
He gave his blood, sweat, and tears to our institution, and I appreciate that.
He talked about, I wasn't going to start here, but let's do it. He talked about when he came to Missouri, and definitely after last year, that he wanted to be a part of something special, to have the biggest turnaround anybody's ever seen. Like, that was the goal. It's not just, hey, let's play better basketball. No, let's shoot for something big. Let's have the greatest turnaround anybody's ever seen. And obviously, you guys were able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
A guy like Tamar, Caleb Grill, those guys, when does that start to come together for guys that lived through it, but to just erase that to get back to playing better basketball? Because that's something that can stay with you, maybe, if you're maybe different mentality.
Yeah, through adversity, though, we all get better, and our discipline is tested during those moments, and our guys showed a level of discipline throughout that season that allowed them to have an awesome off season. And I saw the work, I saw the concentration from day one, and obviously the leadership of those two between Caleb Grill, Tamar Bates. Those guys became captains, man, and Tamar Bates was the last captain I named, and I did it purposeful, but it was a burning desire in his belly to prove Coach Gates wrong, and I knew what I was going to do by naming him the last captain, and it worked.
When did you know he was going to be the captain? But just
I knew before the summer, but it was a different level of his vocal and his leadership, and obviously he just made it no doubt who was the leader and who was the captain.
How big a part of your job as a coach is that individual thing? Like, okay, well, this is what, all right, I figured it out. I know what drives Caleb.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what drives Tamar. Okay, this is what I'm going to get from Mark.
Yeah.
How big of a part of that is your job, coaching basketball, recruiting, but understanding what's between the ears of every player?
You got to paint each kid differently, and you have to be able to know what pushes them, what motivates them, what aggravates them. Those things matter in a group setting because you're putting pieces of puzzles together to make just one unified front. So that's something that I put a lot of stake into, getting to know my players and my players getting to know me.
Is it easy to do in today's era of transfer and NIL? Is it
all it takes is time?
Okay.
And
is there enough time?
Yeah, it's enough time.
Okay.
It's enough time. But what it takes also with that time is pure authenticity, and players can see through it. They can see through if you're fake. They can see through the realness of it, and they can see through the organic time frame of which it should happen. It shouldn't happen overnight. It happens with equity and obviously being on each other's turf.
Visiting with Dennis Gates, the head coach of Missouri. Is it easy to put the entire season into perspective while, separating the last game and not having that be sort of the lasting memory, to have perspective over the entire season for what you guys accomplished this year?
Everything's about perspective. And when you think of seasons prior, if you would have asked our entire fan base, Missouri would be in contention for a top 4 final bye or a double bye in the SEC tournament, and automatic one of the top 10, 15 teams throughout the season. They will have wins over 3 top 5 programs and an NCAA tournament berth. Everybody would have raised not just one hand, 2 hands.
Yeah.
And what we did do is we reestablished our culture, reestablished our identity, but we did leave things on the table, and we're not happy with where our season ended because we talked about being in San Antonio.
Is it difficult, though, to look back and think about that game and what wasn't able to be accomplished to get a chance against Texas Tech and to head to San Francisco?
No, it's not hard to look back because that's how we learn. Everybody got to take their medicine, man, and you can't run from the realities. We didn't play well. Our opponents did. Yeah. It's win or go home. Yeah. And we were the part that had to go home, unfortunately. But our season isn't labeled based off our last game, and that's the perspective that you kind of spoke about earlier. We had a great season, and I'm not ever going to sell our guys short because no one would have been able to respond as a head coach how I responded to my guys, my staff. I didn't fire anybody after 0-19. We rebuilt everything, reinvigorated everything, and even with the players. They did a great job, man, and I'm proud of them.
Visiting with Dennis Gates, head coach of Missouri. What do you learn from looking back at a game like that, whether it be a coach or a player, when you've got maybe a different team that's going to be there next year? Again, we're talking about so much changeover.
Yeah.
What do you, as you look back and look at that, what's there to learn from it, take away from it in a game like that, sometimes you just have a bad night on a bad night?
Well, we've lost some games for those same reasons. You have an upside-down assist-to-turnover ratio. That can do it. You shoot a certain percentage from three, right, and not make those open shots. I'm a great coach if my players' shots are falling. I'm a bad coach when they're not.
Yeah.
And I never throw my guys under the bus. I protect my guys at all time, at all costs, because they have to go out with a clear mindset and perform, and they give their very best. That's all I ask for. I don't ask for perfection. I just ask for their excellence. And in excellence, I know where their hearts are. I know where their hearts were. I just hurt for them because some of them laced it up for the last time at Missouri. And that sometimes can have a dagger in your heart a little bit, and I know the work behind the scenes that they've put in.
Dennis Gates is our guest. I worked for 10 years with Bob Valvano, Jimmy V's brother, and he always used to joke around that, end of the game, you're down by 1, the ball's in the air, and you're going, am I a good coach or a bad coach? Am I a good coach or a bad coach? Goes in, I'm a great coach. Goes out, bad coach. What a terrible play you drew up for that shot.
My job is to stand in front when we lose and step backwards and let the players stand on their soapbox when we win. And that's how you protect the culture, and I'll always take that perspective.
Visiting with Dennis Gates, the transfer portal, the NIL era, it's continuing to evolve, and revenue sharing. We'll see what goes with that. I felt like one of the lessons from this tournament, seeing Auburn and Florida and Houston, in how many players, whether they're transfers or not, have been in the program a couple, 3 years. So Auburn has tons of players returning. Same thing with Florida and Houston. Duke has a bunch of freshmen, so it's a little bit different. But how important do you think retention? People talk about transfer portal and go get this guy, go get that guy. How important is retention of the players, do you think, moving forward?
Well, it's important simply because of the nucleuses of teams and also what your message is. You have a better opportunity to have guys pass that through each other. Peer learning is real. You want guys to be able to take some things from their teammates. You want seniors to put their arms around freshmen.
Yeah.
Well, if everybody's on-the-job training, whether you're a junior, senior, sophomore, or freshman, on-the-job training is on-the-job training. You're learning something new at the same time. And obviously how that spills over on the court is simple. You can see cohesion. It's not in stat sheets, but it's in a coach's eye. It's in execution. It's in timing. It's in deliberate things that you have to carry over, and it's the sort of the thread that keeps programs together, and it's passed down. It never graduates, and ultimately you want guys to be comfortable with themselves and the city, institution, and coach, and not that be the first time that they have to juggle all those things.
Do you feel comfortable about the players that are returning to your school, that there's not going to be transfer portal news or anything?
I love my players, man.
Okay.
They know I love them. I tell them every day. They know it's real. They tell me back. They love me. So we have authentic relationships and deeper relationships. It's not just about basketball.
The players we know, you expect them all back next year?
We'll see as it relates to who we're adding.
Okay.
I'll speak on adding. Every team will know their roster on April 22nd when the portal closes.
Yeah.
That's just how we have to think now. But ultimately, my players, they know how the city of Missouri, they know how I treat them.
Yes, Dennis Gates is our guest. Last one for you. With revenue sharing coming up, what's the conversation like with Laird Veach on the percentage, how that's going to shake down with Eli and you guys and other programs?
Well, I love our institution. Board of Curators do a great job. President Moon Choi, unbelievable president. Laird Veach, great AD, unbelievable AD. I think we leave that into our ADs and our president's hands, where they have their meetings with our commissioner to see what it looks like collectively, and that's how we take it. So until that day comes where they give me exactly what's going on, outside of that, the entire world, the entire NCAA is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Transition.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Dennis Gates, head coach of the Missouri Tigers. Dennis, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
M-I-Z.
ZOU. And a great season and a turnaround. Best of luck continuing moving forward.
Thanks, man.
All right, there's Dennis Gates. We'll take a timeout, come back. We continue more Zone right after this. and we'll talk a little bit more about his comments of let's just see the players that will be incoming, as I talked about retention, because they've got a lot of guys that can return for that team and can really help them out. And we've seen retention be a big part of this NCAA tournament. Our coverage hanging out here, the Final Four with Westwood One, is presented by Ego. Sponsored by Ego, tools that deliver or exceed the power and performance of gas without the noise, fuss, and fumes. For any outdoor challenge, count on Ego tools to deliver the power, performance, and innovation you need. Ego, power beyond belief. Let's talk with PJ Carlesimo here from Westwood One. You hear him throughout the broadcast, throughout the tournament. You'll hear him this weekend as well. PJ, how are you, sir?
Jason, great. It's great to be here. Selfishly for me, it's great to be back in. I spent 5 years here working with Pop and the Spurs,
yes.
And so obviously you always look forward to the Final Four. But for me to come back to San Antonio makes it extra special. And with the 4 teams we have, I mean, it's. We were in Seattle the first week. Had Maryland and Arizona come out of there, and then we were in the West at San Francisco, and of course Florida came out of there. We had some great games. Texas Tech was unbelievable, but I'm looking forward to it. This is as strong a Final Four, as balanced a Final Four as I've seen, and I think you can. I'm sure there's Nate Oates. There's a couple of guys that would disagree, but. These are the best 4 teams in college basketball this year, and they've proven it. They've proven it with their schedules. They've proven it not just the wins, how they've won. I mean, these teams have margins like I've never seen, and they're in some of the best leagues in the country, and it hasn't mattered. They're just dominating. So hopefully the games live up to the expectations. It sets up for a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, that's part of like when people bemoan the fact that there aren't as many upsets. And yes, I get it. Early upsets make the tournament a little bit more fun, but what we get are these fantastic matchups we got in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in the last couple days.
I always stay away from. I always say, hey, when I was coaching, I didn't know what my team was going to do. So I certainly don't know some team that I see 3 times a year and 5 times on tape what they're going to do. But the one thing I was confident about this year, I said, hey, I'm sorry. John Calipari did a great job. Colorado State came close. I just said, you're not going to – it's going to be chalk. I mean, if it goes deeper than 1-2, I'm going to be shocked this year. And I don't think you had to be smart to say – you just watch these teams and say, no one's beating these guys. Yeah. And now it's going to be interesting to see who comes in. Auburn's already played all 3 of them, which is amazing. Yeah. But, a couple of them were a long time ago, and you don't know. And Auburn and Florida, it's one of those if we played already once – do you wish you won or you wish you lost? Are you guys going to be overconfident or whatever? So teams are relatively healthy. If Janai Broom is okay, I think for the most part we got healthy teams across the board. That'll be great.
Yeah, it's been it's setting up to be just a fantastic weekend of basketball. PJ Carlesimo is our guest. Westwood One, former Seton Hall head coach. You mentioned San Antonio. We're talking with Bruce Bowen coming up an hour from now, a guy who's
my God, your standards have gone down. Please tell Bruce I said that. He is easily one of my 2 or 3 most favorite players. Really? With all the great players that we had in San Antonio. Bruce Bowen, I mean, now they use the term 3-and-D. Bruce Bowen was the best perimeter defender in the league for a lot of years. Became a really good 3-point shooter and was a warrior competitor. And the thing that I always talk about, and sometimes people look at me like, what, are you nuts? I mean, I remember nights when Kobe went for 40-some points on Bruce. And Bruce is defending him just as hard, just as well the last possession of the game as he did the first. A lot of guys, when it's a night and they're playing one of those guys that, Kobe could shoot blindfolded left hand from half court and make the shot. Bruce just always played the same way. He got over the picks. He contested the shots. And if the great players that he was matched up with every single night had a great game, it didn't affect him. He was playing exactly the same way, and he was such a big part of. I mean, I was lucky. I was here for 5 years. We had 3 championships.
3 of them, yeah.
And Bruce was a big part of those championships.
I mean, the guy averaged, I think, 7 points per game, and he's got the number 12 hanging in the rafters for a reason.
For a very good reason.
Yes, for a reason, exactly.
Don't tell him I said that, though.
I'm not going.
Tell him I said you lowered your standards today with me and him on your show.
Can't stand him. Never liked him anyway, and they won in spite of him, not helped by him. PJ Carlesimo is our guest from Westwood One. It is interesting, sort of, you mentioned that with San Antonio, and I've always wondered, we've seen coaches make the jump from college to the NBA. We've seen what that has done, some success, some not. In today's college basketball, I don't know if it would be different or not. Would you make the move from the college to the NBA like you did when you were?
I would. It was an opportunity. The time was right. I love Seton Hall. I loved every single day I coached in college. 23 years.
Because you showed at Seton Hall, you got a chance to win a title. You could do it there.
We were right there. It was great. It was a great time to be coaching in the Big East. It's always a good time in the Big East Conference, but that was a special time when it was getting started. But I got the opportunity. I never thought about it. I never really aspired to coach in the NBA. The opportunity was there. Brad Greenberg was the assistant GM in Portland, and I think Paul Allen, the late Paul Allen, who was a great owner in the league. I think he had in mind to hire a college guy. It was changing it up after Rick Allenman, who had done such a fantastic job in Portland for a long time. And I was a little bit close to the program because we had kid Mark Bryan, who played there for a lot of years. Ramon Ramos, our rookie, who had the horrible accident when he was a rookie in the league, played there. I was involved with Nike, so I was always in and out of Portland over the years. And I went out and interviewed, and Paul offered me the job, and it was like, wow, this is just a great opportunity. The thing I had that was lucky, they used to use the stat all the time that our first 3 years we got to the playoffs every year because I was smart enough to hire Dick Harder, Rick Carlisle, Johnny Davis, and Elston Turner. So I had great assistants that weren't going to let me screw up. So it was great. So many other guys that have made the jump from college got expansion teams or bad rosters, and it didn't matter. Like you could have had Red Auerbach and Jack Ramsey and Phil Jackson coaching the team with Pop. They weren't going to win. I had a good roster. I mean,
even trading Clyde.
My first group, and we had CD for half the year. But I mean, I had Clyde, Buck Williams, Terry Porter, Jerome Kersey, and Cliff Robinson. And so I mean, we had a playoff caliber team, and we were lucky enough to get to the playoffs for 3 straight years. But most guys, like Cotton, had done that 25 years before that when he made the jump from college. Actually, I think from Moberly, junior college, if I'm not mistaken. Even Cotton predates me, but it was a great time, and I've loved every year I had in the NBA. I was lucky as hell. I got to coach in both. Truthfully, if I had to pick one or the other, I'd pick the NBA. Through my 40 years, it was more basketball. Like if you wanted to coach basketball, I always felt like I don't mean to equate the two professions, but I felt like a surgeon going in the operating room. All I ever did was basketball practice, a shoot around, or a game. 80-some games a year. If you were good enough to make the playoffs, you'd play almost 100 with exhibitions in the best arenas in the world, coaching the best players in the world. That was all I did. In college, in those days, you did so much recruiting, kids going to class, summer jobs, raise money for the school. I mean, there was a lot of things that was great. I loved it. As I said, I never thought anything of it. But all of those made it difficult to carve out time for basketball. In the NBA, there was nothing but basketball. The time was there for you. That's what you did. So it was a great. It's a great profession to coach in the NBA. Unfortunately, you don't have quite the control that you used to have in college. I don't know that you do anymore. But in the old days in college, once you were at a place for long enough to establish yourself, you went and you picked the kid. Like you recruited them, so they came to play for you. So like you were the GM, you were the front office. It was your deal. If you messed up, it was on you. There was nobody to blame. In the NBA, you don't have that luxury. You have first of all, you have to have a relationship with the GM and the front office, and you don't have control in the players with free agency, and you just can't control the situation as much as you can in college. So I miss that. Nowadays in college, I don't know. I know you're talking about Missouri. I mean, my God, these poor coaches are spending as much time recruiting their own guys as they're recruiting other teams. It's a joke. I talked to so many guys during the tournament, said, I'll see you in San Antonio. They go, I don't think we can come down. We're scared to go away for 4 days. God knows what's going to happen by the time we come back. Our guys are gone, or they're in the portal, or somebody's talking to them. So it's a different era.
Is there a positive to the point of, I've mentioned this, that maybe there is a positive spin on from that aspect, that coaches will recruit a kid from junior year, senior year, and then finish second, and it's like, I just spent 2 years recruiting this kid, whereas I spent 2 days recruiting this kid and in the portal, and he went somewhere else, and now I can move on. Well, I didn't spend 2 years getting to know the kid.
You find an answer out quicker. That's a good point. But I'll tell you what, there's still, in my opinion, and I'm an old curmudgeon, players are making decisions for the wrong reasons. They're not going to schools now. They're going for contracts, and that's that time is going to come later on. It doesn't have to happen when they're 17 or 18 years old.
That's true. PJ Carlissimo, Westwood One, you'll hear him this weekend. PJ, great stuff. I could spend another hour with you, but I appreciate you stopping by.
All right,
Thank you.
Jason, great being with you.
Absolutely. There's PJ Carlissimo. Great stuff from him. Seton Hall head coach, and again with Portland and with Seattle and Oklahoma City as well. He mentioned sort of that expansion. I know that Seattle, Oklahoma City wasn't an expansion; it moved, but boy, they had a roster like one, and then they got Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant's second year is when he was fired mid-season at Oklahoma City because he was the first Thunder coach there when they made that move. But yeah, it's kind of an expansion from what that roster was like to what it ended up being with Russ and Harden and KD, there. But yeah, so interesting from college to the NBA of would you make the jump still? And as he said, to him, I'm just coaching basketball. I get practice without Latrell Sprewell. I get the games, and I can coach, and that's it, and not all of the recruiting. And I think there's a give and take to it with the recruiting. We talked about it, man. You can be out there for 2 years trying to recruit a kid, and you finish second. That doesn't help you any. You don't get them for half the games or a quarter of the games because you finish second. You get them for no games, no minutes, no scholarship. It doesn't matter. And at least in the transfer portal, we're 18 days away from the portal being closed. So we're going to find out in less than 3 weeks where these guys are going. So, you're recruiting a kid, and maybe there's not enough time to develop a relationship to maybe see what makes them tick, to see if it actually would fit, that it's such a quick, fast sort of speed dating type atmosphere that, I don't know, maybe A.J. Storr and Ryland Griffin aren't, on KU if something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's a different, player here or there from that standpoint if you had a couple of years to recruit them. But finding that mixture of retention. And as he said, there's some coaches that are not here. And we talked with our guy from Westwood One. We come down here and they do a great job setting up a lot of the interviews. And, hey, here's who's going to be here at this time. And do you have a time to where you can talk with them? Heck yeah, let's have them on. And PJ Carlissimo's available at 12:40. Boom, let's do it. And they do that scheduling. We show up yesterday morning, and he's like, here's what Thursday looks like during your show. Here's what Friday looks like during your show. And the first thing he said is, I'll be honest with you, we're a little thinner this year than we've ever been. I said, why? He goes, transfer portal, NIL. A lot of coaches aren't coming this year because they're doing anything with they're recruiting their own kids, transfer portal stuff, and they are not going to take a couple of days away from that to come to the Final Four. Now, there are a ton of coaches here at the Final Four. Like our flight on Wednesday afternoon to come down here to San Antonio was filled with coaches. Northwest Missouri State's, coaching staff, the Ruse coaching staff, Baker, KU's coaching staff, Missouri's, a couple of coaches from Missouri were on that flight as well. So there was a packed flight with a lot of different coaches. And obviously there are plenty of other coaches down here too. Dennis Gates, we talked with him, that are down here. But it's just interesting hearing from, the folks at Westwood One that are like, yeah, it's not as many guys that are going to be here that typically would, because of the transfer portal and when it happens. And talking to Dennis Gates earlier this hour, if you didn't hear that, go check it out on the podcast. And, when I asked him, how are you comfortable with your team, I didn't mean like the players that you have. Are you comfortable in how they'll play in your relationship? That's not what I was meaning. I meant, are you comfortable that the players will be back is what I was getting at. And then, he, in the middle of the question or whatever, was like, I love my team. I love my guys. I know, Dennis, but do you feel like those guys will be back? And as he said, we would be thinking about guys that would be adding to the team. He said, I'll just say that. Everybody will know their roster on April 22nd. So it certainly sounds like there's a confidence from the Missouri side that the players that are on the team are going to stay and return. We talked with Caleb Grill last night at the three-point shootout and talking with him about, next year, and said, one of the answers that he gave was about the team next year and talked about the freshmen and said how much he's excited to see Mark Mitchell's improvement at Mizzou. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good to hear that name returning, because that's always a question of a guy that, might be able to make a lot of money as a transfer portal player. Like if he would have entered his name in the transfer portal, it'd be, wow, Mark Mitchell, this guy's going to be worth millions. And maybe he's worth millions. It's just staying in Columbia. I have no idea, but it is a name that people had wondered, was going to put his name in the portal. It hadn't heard any rumors that he was, but there's always a question of, what do you think of them next year? I don't know. Who's returning? We don't know. 18 days from now, we'll probably have a better idea of what that looks like. But certainly was good to hear, putting those two things together. Last night, Caleb Grill saying, looking forward to what Mark Mitchell looks like, with another year there at Mizzou, and then Dennis Gates saying what they are worrying about the players that will be joining. That, the retention, he even talked about, retention and guys staying, and said, they'll be, discussing the guys that are joining the team, not necessarily that they are losing. They don't have a lot of scholarships, but they got scholarships available to go and add to it. Not as many available as Kansas has, because they've got, as we said, a blank slate. But PJ Carlesimo, and I do think we've got the best teams in America, the 4 best teams in America that are playing here in San Antonio in the Final Four. And we've got a couple of guys that'll be a part of the broadcast. Obviously, PJ Carlesimo going to be a part of the broadcast. We talked with Jason Horowitz an hour ago, voice of the Raiders, but also studio host with Jason Horowitz back here in the Westwood One studios. We talked with him earlier in the show, and then in the next hour, we are scheduled to talk with Kevin Kugler, the voice of Westwood One, and Robbie Hummel later on in the show. We'll talk with him, analyst with Westwood One. And in the middle of that, we're scheduled to talk with Bruce Bowen that PJ Carlesimo was talking about, a guy that is just a, defensive guy. The guy's number 12 is hanging in the rafters here in San Antonio of the Frost Center because of how great he is at defense, because of what kind of defensive player he was. And I think there's something to be said for, a couple of teams that are here this weekend. Houston, the way they defend, Duke, the way they defend. I mean, we talked about it with Missouri taking on Drake, the way that Drake defended Missouri. Like, defense was so good, it sometimes, or could be, viewed as a lost art, but Houston's here because of how awesome they are at defense. They're a good offensive team, too, and they can shoot the rock, but defense being the calling card. We will take a timeout. Speaking of calling the action over the weekend is Kevin Kugler. He joins us next here in San Antonio. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Last hour of the show heading up until 2 o'clock. Games coming up tomorrow right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB with Westwood One, the voice you know, familiar with. You'll hear it tomorrow. It is Kevin Kugler, the voice of Westwood One, the NCAA tournament, and so many others. Kevin, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Jason. I feel like I should just drive down sometime from Omaha and just hang out in the studio with you as often as we're on here.
I would love that. One time, I have texted you, I think, once a month saying, Kevin, open invite, come on down, and you've said,
I've had to change my phone number so many times. I can't figure that out.
New phone, who dis?
Yeah, exactly. It's sad,
It's
really.
Jason again, remember?
Who? No, click.
I'll see you in San Antonio. Leave me alone, sir.
I do this once a year, Jason.
That's right. San Antonio, it's got to be special for you, right?
It is.
2008?
First one. Yeah, it's so weird, and I keep telling people in my life that I hope this is not a full circle moment. Like, okay, the circle is closed, now get out. But my first Final Four was here. There were 4 number 1 seeds in that Final Four. There are 4 number 1 seeds in this Final Four. Yeah, it's a weird sort of coincidence that we're back here, and it's kind of the same thing with the 4 number 1 seeds back again this year.
I'm hoping it's different from this standpoint. Like the Monday night game with KU and Memphis was amazing, but the Saturday night games left a lot to be desired.
They really did, yeah. I remember walking out going, "Oh, this isn't that great." Man,
that's not what we thought.
I wanted to do a Final Four, but this was a long night.
I didn't know I have to do that much filler.
Yeah.
In the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Luckily, I had Raph and Coach Thompson there, so they could just talk about random stuff. And Coach Thompson was a slower talker, so it really would fill some of that time for me.
I can't imagine that'll be tomorrow, right?
No.
It seems like this is going to be set up for what could be historic 3 games.
I really think Florida-Auburn's going to be a high-powered game. I think that their familiarity with one another is going to help a lot in that. And look, Houston-Duke, nobody blows Houston out. I just don't think Houston's. I say this now and watch. Duke wins by 30, but I just don't think Houston gets blown out by anybody, and so I think their defense reins in Duke enough to make it a competitive game.
Yeah, and look, Duke has high level players, so even if Houston's and I don't know that Houston against Duke. Like, they can score, but to the point to where it's like, well, Houston's running away from Duke. I just couldn't see that happen either.
No, I really don't think they can score enough to outpace Duke. I think they're going to have to me, how that game's called is going to be a really big thing, how it's officiated. Houston's got to be able to play physical, and they've got to be able to play physical to the point where if you call a lot of ticky-tack fouls, it's going to be a real problem for Houston.
How often have you seen a team do to Tennessee and Rick Barnes what Houston did?
Never. I mean,
right?
That was as impressive a performance as I think I've seen in the tournament in years. I mean, Tennessee with that veteran backcourt, I didn't think you could slow them down to that point. You took Chaz Lanier completely out of his game. Zakai Ziegler couldn't get anything going. And Tennessee was frustrated from the very beginning. Purdue played, it really underlined what a great game Purdue played the game before against Houston, because my gosh, to do that to a Tennessee team, I was stunned.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, in-laws Kentucky fans, so we're watching the Kentucky and Tennessee game, and I'm like, it's an odd strategy for Kentucky to not show emotion in this game and to really show up lifeless in a Sweet 16 game against a team you beat twice. But you could say that side, but that would be taken away from what Rick Barnes and Tennessee did.
Yep.
And it's not to do that. What Tennessee did to Kentucky was impressive, and then to watch Houston then turn that around on Tennessee was incredibly impressive. And I think this is a Final Four, Kevin, where there's a lot of talk about Duke and the freshmen and John Shire. It's Bruce Pearl in the Final Four again, Florida and Todd Golden, maybe, the team that's like a freight train. Yet it feels like, and Houston's here too.
I know.
Which is odd because you don't go 19-1 in the Big 12 and just be and also ran. And they're here too.
I think part of it is the blue blood factor with Duke. Duke always has its own sort of cachet. Part of it is the SEC factor. Florida and Auburn have their own base of fans built in from both football and now basketball, because all of a sudden the SEC's become a basketball conference. And then you have Houston, and nobody thinks of Houston as that team. Yeah. Maybe because they don't exhibit the power football that we're so used to seeing from so many of these. Maybe it's because Kelvin Sampson is just sort of, the elder statesman of this group. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the style of play. But I'm sorry, they're 30-1 since they started the season 4-3, and everybody was wondering what was wrong with Houston. Turns out absolutely nothing was wrong with Houston.
Nothing at all. And I think this is a big weekend for Kelvin Sampson. He's such a good coach, and I don't know. Like I've said about the Chiefs this entire year, last offseason and into this year. Like in today's NFL, I don't think a team will have as good of an opportunity to three-peat as the Chiefs with the players they have, the players they're returning, and to win the last two and keep everybody there. Probably the last best chance we may see in decades for a three-peat. I don't know when Kelvin Sampson's going to be in this position again with this team on a Final Four stage. This might be his last chance to cut down the nets at a Final Four.
No, he's 69 years old, so at some point he's not going to be coaching anymore. And at some point you can't bring in transfer portal guys to learn your system as quickly as you need to be what you need to be at Houston. He's got guys in here who are older, who have been through it before. LJ Cryer's a transfer in, but he's in his second year, so you're talking about guys who've grown up in the Kelvin Sampson system. And that's really been a big part of why he's successful. 7
of the top 8 guys in minutes for Houston. This is at least their second year with Houston.
Yep.
I think there's something to be said about that. Auburn, 6 of their top 8. Multiple years there with Bruce Pearl. 6 of the top 8 in Florida. Multiple years there with Todd Golden. We talk about the transfer era, and it's one thing to be like, all these guys, 11 of the 20 starters in the Final Four are transfers. Yes, but Janai transferred 3 years ago.
Correct.
Correct. Walter Clayton's in his second year from Ione at Florida.
You may see a reversal with the policies that are in place now. There are going to be some teams that do the Northern Iowa in reverse, where they get guys to transfer in and then grow old together with those guys in their system because they're able to pay those guys the kind of money that they need. And if you're happy, if you're a Walter Clayton Jr., why would you look elsewhere? You love Florida. You're in Florida. They're paying you well. What would be the point? I mean, what would be the point of going anywhere else? So you may see that reverse come around.
Will you just tell Walter Clayton that he's on my player pool, and right now he's the tournament leading scorer, and I'm 15 points behind for the whole thing, so I could get the championship and tournament leading score. Can you tell him that?
I will let him know.
Thank you very much.
He was very concerned earlier, so I'll let him know that Jason needs your help.
I need by proxy. I need somebody to pass.
Get it done.
He won't answer my DMs.
Well,
so.
I mean, it's again, he's probably changed his number multiple of times too.
Get it? It's weird. My wife does that too.
It's so strange.
I live in the same house as you. We're in the same bed.
My wife won't even give me her number anymore, so I don't know what to say about that.
Kevin Kugler. Kevin, you're the man. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
brother.
Jason. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's Kevin Kugler. You will hear him on Westwood One and Sports Radio 810. These games coming up tomorrow. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone right after this.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Sports Radio 810's live broadcast from Radio Row at the Final Four is presented by Easton Roofing. Commercial and residential roofing and gutters. Get your free consultation in seconds by going to eastonroofing.com. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. And by National VA Loans. National VA Loans, helping veterans and military service members live the American dream. National VA Loans, powered by Stride Bank.
Hi, this is Toby along with Jason Goodenkoff from Lewisburg Ford in Lewisburg, Kansas. Hi, Jason.
Hello, Toby.
Man, with all this bad weather, I need some good news.
Well, the good news here, we've got Truck Month at Lewisburg Ford, Toby. So until the end of March, we've got the best time of the year to buy new trucks at Lewisburg Ford.
What kind of money am I going to save?
You can save a ton of money, Toby. Our $50 over invoice pricing saves Kansas City thousands of dollars, up to $16,000 off a brand new 2024 F-150 Super Crew.
It's no wonder you have sold more F-150 Ford pickups in the greater Kansas City area for 8 years in a row.
Yeah, that's right. Number one in the state of Kansas, 4 years in a row, Toby. So we sell a lot of pickup trucks, and it's because of our price and our selection.
You sell a lot of vehicles, period.
Absolutely.
Yes. It is no games, no gimmicks, the absolute best place to buy a Ford car or truck. Now, how much off?
$16,000 off a top MSRP.
How long?
All the way till the end of March.
All right.
816-444-2300.
Or LewisburgFord.com.
Head to your local Kansas City Quick Trips to scan the QR code for the chance to win a custom Yingling Flight golf cart, courtesy of Yingling Flight and Sports Radio 810 WHB. Flight by Yingling is the product of 6 generations of brewing expertise, coming in at only 95 calories and 2.6 grams of carbs. Flight is the next generation of light beers. Raise the bar with this easy drinking, clean, crisp, and refreshing beer from America's oldest brewery. Head to your local.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, hanging out at the Final Four, Radio Row. Tomorrow, our coverage right here on Sports Radio 810. It is with Westwood One. Right now, let's talk to a man who, well known around San Antonio, around the NBA circles as well. Bruce Bowen, former San Antonio Spur, Miami Heat, a number of other places as well, joins us here in the zone. Bruce, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's a great time to be here in the city. Yeah. It's lively right now. Obviously, you got 4 teams in town competing to be the last team standing, so it's always good.
You look like you could probably go out there and still put 5 or 6 minutes on the floor.
Maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then you guys be talking bad about me. I remember when he used to be able to. He's a lot slower now.
A kid walks up, didn't you used to be Bruce Bowen?
That's right. Or
I did.
Or the proverbial one that always happens. Yeah, I took a picture of you when I was in kindergarten.
Oh, no, yeah.
It's like, oh, you have a beard now, young man, and you're telling me that.
I was right out of college. I was a teacher's assistant for a special needs classroom, and the teacher that runs it sent me a picture of one of the girls that was in 3rd grade who turned 27 last week. Oh, wow. And I'm like, come on, I'm not there yet. Am I really talking about a 3rd grader that's turned 27 now?
Yeah,
that's crazy. Do your boys remember you playing? And maybe your oldest, but does your youngest realize who Bruce Bowen is?
My oldest remembers. The second oldest says he does, but he doesn't. But they hear a lot of stories here.
Yeah.
So they see stuff here. They hear the stories. So that's kind of how
that's cool.
They have learned some of the stuff. And even now, showing them pictures of me and someone. Yesterday I played golf with Allen Houston. And Allen he's a dear man, a great individual. And I've known him for quite some time, and one thing we were talking about as a friend, the competition. We had some serious competitive matchups during the Heat-Knick rivalry, and he said, it's sad today that kids don't understand because of your relationship, you would go above and beyond.
Yeah,
you would not take it easy because you're friends. But you would compete to the highest level. And so I sent my oldest a picture of me and him, and he was kind of like, oh, wow, that's fire.
That's fire.
That's what I got.
That's crazy. I lived in Louisville for 10 years, and my son, before we moved back to Kansas City, would have been going to Ballard where Allen Houston went.
Oh, my.
So strange little connection there. That's really interesting. Ballard High School where he went. Rajon Rondo, I believe, was a Ballard High School player as well. Visiting with Bruce Bowen. We've talked about in Kansas City for a number of years about this dynasty that the Chiefs are going through, and you lived through a dynasty as well. Did you feel it change from, San Antonio Spurs, this is a good team, to you're now the hunted, you're now the ones that everybody's trying to knock off? It was sort of you and the Lakers back and forth, and the Mavericks too, but did you feel like it was the Spurs and you were the people that were hunted?
We never felt that way. And I believe because Coach Pop, the way he did things, where he kept us very level-headed and in a way of really explaining that, hey, it's hard to get to a certain round. It's hard. It takes a lot of fortune and also your due diligence. So when you have that constantly being preached to you, you never look at yourself or what your group is going through as something more special than it really is. Plus, you don't have time to think about that, because you're in the moment.
Interesting.
I tell people all the time, I didn't celebrate my championships till I retired. So, and a lot of them look at me funny, like, well, why not? I saw the champagne. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. But to truly say, I am a champion 3 times, you don't have that chance because you're constantly trying to get another one. So if you're satisfied, that doesn't give you the motivation to continue on as you were doing before.
Did each one feel better? Like Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes were talking about, like when they went for number 2, it's like, no, this one, we want this one more than we wanted number 1. And then getting number 3 and back-to-back was like, no, you don't understand. This one we want more than we wanted number 1 and number 2. Is that true?
It's interesting. They're different. A lot of times the first one is always like, wow, I never thought that I would have this opportunity. There are so many NBA greats that didn't get this opportunity, and so that's the first thought process. And then after you win it, you're like, okay, I'd like another one. And then you have the opportunity to. Now, for me, I'll put it to you this way. We win against New Jersey 4-2. Now, New Jersey during that year, they averaged in the playoffs, they averaged 28 points in transition. Now, just think about that. 28 points in transition. You had Jay Kidd at the helm. You had Kenyon Martin. You had, Kerry Kittles, Lucius Harris, Dikembe Mutombo. But that is, if you can limit their effectiveness in transition and make them play half-court basketball, that was our goal. We were fortunate enough to accomplish that, and that was the first one. Then 2005, it's Larry Brown, Pop's mentor, Pop's great friend, and two defensively minded teams.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would want to watch that series right now because of what they've seen offensively in the game. But for the savants of the game, it was beauty. It was competitive. That's how you got on the floor when I was coming up, is you did it through defense. And to go 7 games and to win at home, that was special. So that was different from the standpoint of, yes, it's good, but it is different. And then the last one for me is 2007, playing against a young LeBron James and a Cleveland upstart team that, at the end of the day, some people might say it's interesting that they made it to the finals. It just shows you how good LeBron was for him to go 24 straight points against Detroit. And because maybe Detroit did not take them seriously or didn't respect them enough, they let one get away. And so we had a young team that we competed against in Cleveland that hadn't been at that level before. So they were coming in like, okay, wow, this is fantastic, but what is it really about? Whereas we had some time there before, and we had a great coach in Greg Popovich who was able to keep us level-headed and understand that this is a great opportunity. You don't want to squander it away, and we were fortunate to win the last one. So I said all that to say is that competitive 2005, Game 7. 2003, you get there, and it's new to you, and you happen to win because you have a David Robinson as well as Tim Duncan. And then the last one, I got a chance to say that I did something in the finals that no one ever has against LeBron, and that's sweep them. So now, it doesn't mean that he's bad, and it doesn't mean that he's terrible. It's just something that happened because of the youth of that team.
Bruce Bowen is our guest, and you mentioned coming up in defense and what that Detroit series was. And, it's, I think there would be a lot of basketball fans that would say, you know what, I'd rather watch that basketball now than maybe what we're watching today in the NBA. But for you specifically, a defensive-minded guy, I can see somebody going out and shooting a bunch of threes, practicing threes, off the dribble, off the bounce, catch and shoot, getting that shot down. Defensively, how do you prepare and train to be an all-defensive team in the league and be a guy who walks out on the floor and says, well, that's the defensive stopper right there. Not that's the shooter, that's the scorer, that's the post player. That's the guy that's going to stop your perimeter player.
Well, I think it takes more about your thought process and your competitive nature and your desire to be on the floor. We're all blessed with different talents, and not everybody can do what Tim did. Not everyone can do what Manu did. Not everyone can do what Tony Parker does or did. So you have to fit in where you can. And one of the biggest things that I stress to younger athletes today is, hey, star in your role that you're given. And it's nothing wrong with being a defensive star because it gives you an opportunity to be on the floor, gives you an opportunity to have an impact with your group. You may not get 20 and 10, but if you're able to limit the top scorer on the opponent's team, that's value.
Yeah.
And sometimes because it's not sexy, people don't look at that as value. They see what Steph does, and it's like, oh, but I want to do that. Yeah, but your lane is over here.
Yes.
And if you buy into what your lane is, you can have a great career and create great memories as well.
Kenneth Faried was at Morehead State, and it was like, just go grab rebounds, man. If you just grab rebounds, you're going to play a long time in the NBA.
It was rebounding, but it was also his drive.
His drive, yeah.
His drive was amazing.
It's one thing to just go get that rebound.
No, exactly.
Yeah, but it's not easy to go get that rebound.
Especially when people are boxing you out.
Right.
And when they know that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
He was still able to accomplish that.
Bruce Bowen is our guest. Did you embrace or resent the dirty player, or he goes over the line, or what that line was with you out there? Was it an embrace? Was it a resentment? Was it just something that's part of your game and people misunderstood what was going on?
Well, if you try to explain to everyone what it is, you're going to be explaining for a long time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even something that I didn't care about. It was something that was said. I just wanted to make sure that all those around me understood who I was.
Yeah.
And they did, for that matter. It's funny. Pat Riley says to me one day, about 7 years ago. He says, "You know what? You were not a dirty player." And I'm just kind of like, where'd that come from?
Okay, random.
But okay. I said, okay. He said, "You know why? Now I'm really curious." I'm like, "Okay, coach, I'm going to bite on this one." Why? He said, "Because I taught you." And, you know, from the athlete's perspective, it was more about the details of what we did. You remember during those times in Miami, Riles talked about being the best condition, the most physical type of team that you could have on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about going out and intentionally doing anything to anyone. And injuries are a part of the game. It's just unfortunate that some of them happen with me, but at the same time, those were things that were going to be said because you have reporters out there, and I'm not saying they were trying to make a name for themselves or anything like that, but if you truly know the art of basketball, you know when it comes to boxing out someone that there's contact and things happen in that. Or there's a time where with offensive guys, we call them bullies on the block, like Carmelo Anthony on the block back in the day. Man, he was hard to deal with. So, but he utilized his physicality to overpower a lot of guys.
Yeah.
So my thoughts was, I was skinny then. I was 195 pounds. So I'm going up against guys 210, 215. I have to bring something. So I like to believe I was wiry strong.
Yes, right.
And that's what I would go with. But at the same time, it didn't impact me from the standpoint of me doing my job, as long as I was doing what was within the rules.
Bruce Bowen is our guest and 3-time champion, number 12 hanging in the rafters there in San Antonio. I appreciate you stopping by, man. I think I could talk to you for another hour or so and not run out of stories or anything. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely. There's Bruce Bowen. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue more Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We are hanging out at the Final Four tomorrow. The game's coming up right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB with Westwood One. And the man that you've heard throughout the tournament with Westwood One is Robbie Hummel joining us here in the zone. Robbie, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. How many years is it now for you with Westwood One in the tournament?
Boy, this is, I think, my seventh.
Seventh? Has it really been?
Yeah,
I was thinking, is it 4 or 5? Because we talk to you every year down here.
Yeah, I think because I've done this 8 years, and my second year I started. So, yeah, I think it is my 7th year.
Yeah, that's crazy. Is it felt like it's been that long?
No, it's well, in a way, it feels like ages ago.
Yeah, right.
I was in Des Moines with Kevin Kugler, which is kind of ironic, but that feels like forever ago. But at the same time, it's hard to believe that this has been so many NCAA tournaments now.
With the way that college basketball is today, do you feel like you were born like a decade and a half too late? Or too early, I mean. Too early, not too late, but too early.
No, I get what you're saying. I was with one of my college teammates last night. We had dinner, and we were joking about how, we couldn't get cream cheese on our bagels because they could give us bagels because that was a snack. But the second you got cream cheese or peanut butter, that made it a meal. So we couldn't get that. And, yes, it does feel like it's changed a lot. And I think with all – sports, whether it's the NBA or it's any pro basketball or it's college basketball, you could look at the guys that played in the 90s and compare that, whether it's Charles Barkley or Michael Jordan or those guys, and compare that to what Julius Erving had. And obviously that had changed, and guys laid a foundation, and the guys that played in the 90s made a lot more than the guys that played in the 70s. And they're both equally as important to the history of the NBA. But I do think that that's just kind of part of the evolution. It's just, to me, a bit of a shame that some of the common sense stuff wasn't done. To me, if you're selling a jersey that's number 33 at Purdue, that was E'Twaun Moore's jersey. But he wasn't allowed to make money off it. But that was common sense. He couldn't. You couldn't.
We
get
just
a
won't
card
put more on the back, and therefore it's not his jersey.
And that's what the logic was. And if you asked, well, this is an E'Twaun's jersey.
Yes.
Oh, really? You just picked 33?
Yeah,
because
he's
it was a
borrowing
fun
33
number?
while he's here. Other people have worn 33.
You picked our All-American, right? Like, what a coincidence. So some of the common sense things that could have been done weren't, and now it has flipped to a total 180. I'm all for the players making money because I think it should have been happening a long time ago. But, this is the reality of what we have now, and it's changed so dramatically.
One of the things that is going on as well is not just like the change but with the money, but also the transfer portal.
Sure.
Do you think you would have, like, you spent your entire time with Matt Painter?
Yeah.
Do you think you would have entertained that possibility of going somewhere else?
It's hard to put yourself in those shoes because, now I look at it, I've played pro basketball, I've had a career, you've made some money in your life, but if you have to think about some of these kids whether their families have money, don't have money, whatever, but when you're a college student and you don't have any money, it's a different kind of perspective, I think, to have. I just hope that when making these decisions, I really hope that the players can take in the totality of it. If you play at 4 schools in 4 years, you don't get a degree because how could you graduate? The credits aren't going to transfer. And now it's like, well, where do you go? What is your home? Who will take care of you if you need help? I am confident that if I needed something from anyone, I could go to someone at Purdue and they would at least hear me out, because I have a place to go. And I do worry about the graduation. I worry about guys being like in tough spots and being like, well, I played at 4 different places. I really didn't have that much of an impact at any of them. I maybe played good a couple years. Who knows? But, from my own perspective, I'd like to think that I wouldn't, but when you're getting money thrown at you that's in the $2 or $3 million range, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, the crazy thing is, as these guys go to play pro basketball, and I'm not talking about the NBA because the money in the NBA is substantial, especially if you can get to the second contract level. But if you're playing overseas, I bet there are 4 or 5 American players that are making over $2 million.
Yeah.
So if you're making $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, this might be the most money you ever make in your life. It really might be, which in a way is kind of sad. If that's where you're at 21 and then you think about the next 40 years, it's just, it could be daunting. You better save and you better have a degree, so that's where I think this is a very kind of just hard scenario, and I'm not sure what the answers are, and we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants here.
Visiting with Robbie Hummel, who played for Matt Painter, and I'm a visual person, and so excuse the chicken scratch here. It does mean something, but
I saw this.
There's something that sticks out here,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's Matt Painter and all of the top 8 minutes, every single starter at Purdue. Started at Purdue, plays for Purdue. Is there something to that to Matt Painter? Is it maybe the type of player? Is it his coaching? Is it just coincidence that maybe in a couple of years it might be totally different there?
I think all the above. I think he's recruited guys that probably have the same interests of staying in one place. I think that he's become, not that he was a player's coach when I played for him, but he definitely got after. He's changed in terms of that. He doesn't yell at the players nearly enough in all of the former players' opinions compared to what he used to do.
Every younger child, the older child thinks oh my God, you were so much harder on me than you were them.
And every former player is like, man, my college coach was so much harder on our team than. But I do think that probably changes, and they've already taken a kid in the portal for next year's team, and I think they're looking for more. But they've done a great job with retention over the last 3-4 seasons as the portal has gotten into full swing. They've taken, Lance Jones is a good example. They took a kid that was on their Final Four team that was at Southern Illinois but fit the culture. I just think they've done a good job of identifying kids that want to get better and want to work through some things and have a good understanding. And part of it is Coach Painter is really honest. When I first visited Purdue, he didn't offer me a scholarship, and he told me exactly why, which I appreciated. He told me, we really like you. We have an offer out to this kid. Depending on where he goes, and he was a year older than I was, but depending on where he goes to school, we may have a scholarship. If he goes elsewhere, we will offer it to you. But I appreciated that. I really did. It didn't hurt our relationship. I understood where he was coming from. And, with so many coaches, you didn't get that level of honesty. You'd get some crazy answer or whatever. So I think that actually helps him in this regard, too, because there's no surprises with him.
It's funny. We talked to Dennis Gates earlier, and he talked about Tamar Bates, senior leader, captain, and he said this year Tamar Bates was the last person he named captain, even though he knew all along like he was the captain. But he did it for a reason. And he said, as I was naming different captains along the way, and a week would go by and I'd name another captain and it wasn't Tamar, and then a week would go by, you name another captain, it wasn't Tamar. He's like, I saw how mad that made him and how it drove him.
The mental warfare of these college coaches.
Yes,
right?
I know. And he's like, he was going to be a captain the whole time, but I wanted to make sure that he was earning it and was living up to that. And I think that's interesting, like sort of knowing, like Matt Painter being completely honest and upfront with you, and Dennis Gates sort of using it to drive Tamar Bates of like, I'm not going to name you captain. You got to earn it. Oh, nope, this guy hasn't been here as long as you. He's a captain. This guy he's a captain.
Some of the mental games that coaches play. When I sat out, I saw it firsthand because I tore my ACL twice and missed my first senior year, I guess. But I would be sitting over there, and he'd be talking to me, and then he'd see something and be like, hold on, I got to go scream at Pat. he'd go from totally like conversational. He'd scream at him. He'd come back, and we'd just pick up right where we were. And it's some of the things that are premeditated, or so you hear stories, and I've heard stories about coaches planning on throwing the team out of practice, stuff like that, where it's like you think in the moment, like, oh man, we really screwed up, but in reality, it's like, hey, the first time that guys don't do necessarily what we exactly want, we're going nuts. Some of that stuff is pre-planned, and that's exactly what you're talking about with Dennis Gates.
Robbie Hummel is our guest. You got a chance to see Houston up close and personal, and what they did against Tennessee is not something many teams will do against Tennessee. You take a physical team and you out-physical that team. Yes. What do you see from this Houston team, and are they, in a way, Kelvin Sampson's been here, done that, one of the old heads, and a fantastic coach, and Houston going through the Big 12 that they did, in a way, is Houston sort of looked at as like, Houston's here too.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be. Yeah. You think about going 19-1 in the Big 12 and winning the Big 12 tournament without Juwan Roberts in the semis and the finals. I have so much respect for Kelvin Sampson. He recruited me when he was at Indiana, and just to kind of watch his evolution as a coach to go from Oklahoma to Indiana to the NBA and now at Houston, and take a program that has tremendous history but had fallen on incredibly hard times. And they've gotten commitment from the university, and I think certainly the Fertitta family has helped them with the stadium and now with some NIL stuff. But they play so hard. They compete at the highest level. You have to match their toughness. And that will be Duke's challenge with so many young guys, granted, incredibly talented young guys. But you better be ready to fist fight Houston. And you said it perfectly. You don't see teams do to Tennessee what Houston did. I mean, you just don't see a toughness program in the Volunteers get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they totally did. I thought Purdue actually did a good job of matching the physicality, the toughness. But you better be ready when they put 2 on the ball. You better make them pay for it. And that's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
I can say that. I thought Purdue actually did a great job, and Tennessee wasn't nearly as effective at doing that. But they're going to trap the post. They're going to trap your ball screens. They're going to try to overwhelm you on the offensive glass. But they also have offense this year. You know, their 3 guards, whether it's Sharp or Cryer or Uzan, those 3 guys can go. And they don't run complicated stuff, but you got to really guard those 3. And then the best offense sometimes can be just get the ball on the rim and let our guys go get it.
Yeah, and you need all of them because you never know in a night when Uzan has a great night and you're able to survive a game because he has a great night.
Yep.
And the X's and O's back and forth, but also it's calling X's and O's, but it's also the players have to go and play. And that inbounds pass where they won against Purdue, and hearing Kelvin Sampson say, you know, that's the earliest inbounds pass we put in our system. We run that at the beginning. And he said something like, we have run that 1,000 times, and I've never seen the guy who slips the screen throw it back to the inbounder.
Sure. Well,
It's the only time he's ever seen it.
It's just taking exactly what the defense is giving you. And in that game, Purdue, and all season long, a lot of the time, they would have the guy guarding the inbounder take the strong side corner. Because so often you see it's whether it's screen for the screener, but a lot of offensive actions on under out of bounds end up being a screen for a shooter to come to the strong side corner. So Purdue would take the inbound defender and they would essentially switch it where if I'm guarding the inbounder, I'm running to the corner and the guy guarding the guy coming off the screen basically switches. Braden, I don't know if this was a rogue decision. He went to the weak side to take away the flare. So it's a great read by Tugler. He flashes to the ball. He throws it to Uzan, and it's just a heck of a read and a heck of a play.
Do you think we'll get 3 really good games this weekend?
I have to imagine. Yeah. As I was watching, whether it's the personnel or just the games of these teams to get ready for Saturday, it's like, you know, wow, Auburn's going to have to play really well to win. Wow, Florida's going to have to play really well to win. Same with Duke. Same with Houston. It's the 4 best teams are here.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that we love the upsets, and we certainly, the Cinderella is a great story, but it can sometimes lead to eventually the road ends, and eventually the game is not that good. I just don't see a road to where that happens. I really don't. Now, that doesn't mean it won't, but all 4 of these teams outstanding. The fact that they're 4 of the 10 most efficient teams in the history of KenPom, pretty wild. So we should have 3 great games.
Robbie Hummel, Westwood One. Robbie, thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Doing a fantastic job. Love listening to you guys and you and Kevin there in Houston. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. There's Robbie Hummel. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We continue rolling more zone right after this. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Robbie Hummel joining us and talking about the NCAA tournament as he was there in Indianapolis, where Houston and Tennessee played against each other. Houston, Purdue as well, and then Tennessee and Kentucky. But this Houston team that I do think there is an element of they are kind of the and they're here as well. And they would be one of the stars of the Final Four if it wasn't for this year being these 4 stud teams that are, 4 of the best in the KenPom era that has been talked about and discussed. And there is a portion of that is the way that college athletics and college basketball has gone in the building of rosters and how they play and the strategy behind it in the KenPom era to be more efficient, which, you strategize, you recruit for, you coach to a more efficient style of basketball. You are then going to become a more efficient team, and then you'll be more efficient than years past, and therefore you'll see 4 of the top 10, especially when they're really, really good with the strategy and the recruiting behind it to go along with the players that are there playing at a high level. And that's what we have this weekend is a high level of players that are playing. But fascinating story from Robbie Hummel that said the other night he and one of his teammates at Purdue were talking about that when they had the bagels that they couldn't have cream cheese on the bagels. Like, we're seeing millions of dollars, 7 figures
That's just wild.
for players.
I couldn't believe he was saying it. I was like, this is a joke? No, it's real. Okay.
Yeah, if you have cream cheese, it's a meal. If you have a bagel, it's a snack. You can have a snack, but you cannot have an extra meal. And if they put cream cheese on it, it's a meal. I mean, that's something my kids would say, like, oh, no, I already ate. No, you had a bagel. That was a snack. No, we had cream cheese. That was my dinner. Sorry, there was cream cheese on the bagel. It was my dinner. No, that's not how it works. You're going to eat your meal, all right? You're going to eat your food, and that's what we said. You had a snack already. That's your fault. I told you if you're going to have a snack, you still needed to eat dinner. No. There was peanut butter on there. That's a meal. That was my dinner. Sorry, Dad. If you don't believe me, go talk to the NCAA. That's the way that they describe it. Like, the absurdity behind that of a snack and a meal is the spread on the bagel.
I'm just upset there wasn't like a rules violation investigation into something like this, because obviously this isn't where they drew the line on like where to, count things or whatever. But yeah, that was.
I'd have to go back and look, but I think there was a story. It was a while ago, and I think it was before I moved. So here in Kansas
wasn't
City,
it Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and a cheeseburger or like a hamburger or something?
It might have been that, but I remember a story of a coach that either they did and had to self-report, or they didn't because they knew it was a violation, but they were driving across campus and it was raining, and one of his players was walking, trying to go into the dorm or the housing facility, whatever, and the coach, I don't remember the particulars of the story, but the coach either stopped and the kid got in, and then they had to self-report because you can't give the kid a ride across campus in the coach's car, or the coach was like, I'd love to give the guy a ride, but I can't because he's a player, and that would be an improper benefit to him. That's how absurd it was. Like, they fought to keep it that way. Like, people can complain all they want about, it's the wild, wild west and everything is crazy. Well, that's because the NCAA spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to keep it that a bagel with cream cheese was a secondary violation, instead of saying, you know what, maybe we should pay the product. Maybe we should do some more things for the product here, and we can slowly incorporate this. It would be a smoothing process and not just night and day, one year to the next, where, you got your full cost of attendance and you got your scholarship and you got some meals, and then boom, now you have, quote, NIL. And NIL was originally just the, you're going to get paid for a commercial endorsement, or, Miami's going to give everybody on their team like $10,000 or something, but it's going to be connected to some sort of a company. Like, there were those stories when it first started happening. And then we had collectives, and then it's just, okay, you're just paying the players. And the NCAA is like, what are we going to do?
Right.
What are we going to, have them, sanction them, and then they sue us? Like, we don't have any teeth here. We can bark all we want, but we don't have any teeth with this whole thing. So then we got the House case. Don't remember the fellow's first name, but last name House. And that gets settled, and we see the revenue sharing that can go up to $20.5 million. And one of the reasons why I asked Dennis Gates, like, a big part of what the revenue sharing is going to be is how the revenue sharing is then shared with each athletic department with the programs, because Dennis Gates of Missouri is going to want a piece of that pie. Eli Drinkwitz is going to get the biggest piece of that pie at Mizzou for football, but Bill Self in Kansas is going to want that. Lance Leipold's going to want that. Jerome Tang's going to want that. Chris Kleiman's going to want that. And there's only so much to go around, and other programs are going to get money as well. Like, that's what we're going to see. And so we see a little bit of that, and the NCAA says they're going to be cracking down on the specific NIL, that it has to then can't be just some collective pay for play, because we're doing that now. So therefore anything added on would be specifically NIL. You're getting paid to do a commercial. You're getting paid for, to do this or sponsorship or things like that. But I mean, we went from it being you got a violation for doing some of the absurdity that's there that just is so dumb to then what it is now. And the NCAA can complain and all of that stuff. And there can be people that can complain, but some of the people that are complaining are also the people that were going, it's fine. They've got enough. I had to pay for student loans, so the kids have enough already. Okay, well, it's going this direction. Either you understand where the tide is going and you get on board, you get on the boat, or you drown. And a lot of that has been drowning and not seeing what the future was and where the wind was blowing, and figuring out how to get ahead of it and to make it an easier and smoother transition. And that's what we have now. And we'll see what the next couple of years will look like. Like we talk about the transfer and NIL era. Well, now we're going to be in the revenue sharing era. And how does that happen with different programs? Like I mean, who was the AD at Kansas that Roy Williams crushed like a dove? He had the power to hold me in his hands and let me fly. Instead, he used that power of influence to crush me, and it was because the idea was, no, we want a stronger athletic department. If the story's
Al Bull.
Al Bull, that's right.
No relation to Frank, but
it's Frank Bull's brother. They're so mad. I wasn't covering the teams at the time, so other people would have much more information and specifics to it, but his contention is that he wanted to make a stronger athletic department, and Roy Williams' contention was, you're not taking money away from the basketball program to give to anybody else. And I wonder what, a coach like that would be in the revenue sharing of, hold on, we're getting 5% or 6% of the revenue, not 5%, but 15% of the revenue sharing, and the football is getting 70%. Hold on, this is a basketball school. You know what I mean? What's Kentucky going to do? Is Mark Pope going to take a back seat to Mark Stoops? Are they going to Kentucky a basketball
what's
school?
What's Alabama going to do?
Right, 100%.
Like you're literally giving a guy that's trying to follow up in a legend's footsteps, maybe less than 50%, when Nick Saban for years probably got everything he wanted in that program.
Everything
and
he wanted.
Those Bama fans, those football fans won't care. They won't take that context.
No, they're like, who cares? Like Nate Oates, figure it out, man. Go do something. We're not going to let Auburn.
I'm saying like Kalen DeBoer. Like Kalen DeBoer,
I know what you're saying.
Figure it out, buddy. Like, I'm trying to follow up Nick Saban with half the money he was getting. For this.
But these football schools, though, it's like the SEC is big time in basketball, and we'll see, what this weekend is.
Commissioner
they'll
told
have an
the
SEC
schools
team.
We need to be better in basketball, and look at the Final Four. Look at the tournament.
Yeah, and they've done that. They've been able to retain coaches.
Yep.
And we'll see what this weekend is, if one of the SEC teams will win the national championship. One will play in it.
I was going to say, Jason, I didn't find the specific instance for the walking in the rain, but it is in the actual handbook that picking up a student athlete walking in the rain, especially if it's done by a coach or other athletic staff member, could potentially be considered a violation because all the other kids have to walk in the rain. Yeah, and it literally says that.
So it was used as an example of what not to do.
Right.
In the rule book. Do not pick up an athlete walking
Now, if he's
in the
walking
rain.
alone, that's where my question would come in. If there's no other student athletes around while it's raining, this is where it kind of gets in the gray
You know what
area.
you do? No. You North Carolina this thing. You pick up the student athlete in the rain while also picking up a random student
you're right.
on campus in
That's
the rain.
exactly right.
And therefore you can do it because North Carolina, you just had, look, those classes weren't just for North Carolina players. There were other students that were allowed to go to those classes, so it wasn't necessarily an improper benefit for the Tar Heels because it was open to everybody. And that's what I said, well, then open it up to everybody. Open up cream cheese on a bagel to everybody. Like Robbie Hummel. All right, what do we think's going to happen this weekend? My pocketbook says that I would really enjoy it if Florida beats Duke. I think Florida takes care of Auburn. We'll see. Janai Broom's injury, I think, is interesting. If people haven't been seeing some of the videos in practice, his right arm, he did hyperextend against Michigan State, and he's been wearing a sleeve in practice. And I don't know that I've ever seen him straighten his right arm out in any of the videos that they have shown. Now, maybe it's one of those like, oh, he's injured, and then boom, goes out there. He's still Janai Broome, so he's still going to be a stud player, but we'll see what that looks like. But I think Florida will take care of business against Auburn. I think Duke will win, and unfortunately, I think Duke will win on Monday night. My pocketbook says Florida wins. I would love for that to happen, just for specific personal reasons, but I do think Duke is cutting down the nets. But it's one of those crazy ones where I don't think we'd be surprised in any way, shape, or form if any of these teams are playing. What do you think happens?
I want it to be Duke, Florida, but I feel like everyone assuming that one of them is going to fall. So I'm going to pick Duke against what I need to happen. So I'm going to go Florida, Houston, with Florida winning it all.
All right, we'll see what happens. There you go. We wrap up our coverage here in San Antonio tomorrow starting at noon all day long with the national semifinals. Keep it locked right here on Sports Radio 810.